How's it going, my dream people? DrSlaking, the Slacking Doctor, back with part 2 of our top 10 Pokemon in Draft League, in Gen 7 Draft League list. This is the top 5. We're here for the top 5. I am recording this a couple of days, or I think a day after part 1 went up. Thank you all for the support so far. It's been amazing and really, really appreciated. I put a ton of work into that part 1. Not gonna lie, I put off recording this part 2 because it was pretty exhausting doing the part 1. But the overwhelmingly positive response you guys gave me really kind of has remotivated me to knuckle down and get this part 2 done before I start uploading Sword and Shield, which obviously I'm very excited to do on Friday. So yeah, I need to get this ready and up there before that. Hopefully you're seeing this before Sword and Shield. Hopefully I haven't messed up and you're not seeing this next week sometime, but we'll find out. Regardless, if you don't understand the formatting of this and everything else, please go check out part 1. Even if you don't watch it all the way through, just watch the beginning where I explain how all this works. I'm not going to explain it again for those people that have seen that. So let's jump straight into our honourable mentions here, as we are going to look at the mons that would have made it in if we were basing this off KOs per game rather than total KOs. Last episode we did mons based on differential, so these are the mons that had a good enough KOs per game, I believe, to make the top 10. And this is quite interesting for me because I felt like Terrakion and Mega Beedrill when I used them were pretty underwhelming. I didn't think I was that good with them. I didn't like any of the teams I had them on. I actually had them on a team together at one point, and I performed pretty badly with it. I didn't get many good results, but clearly these two mons actually performed decently well on that team, each getting 12 KOs in exchange for 8 feints, differential of +4 in 9 games. I don't know how they managed to end up identical, but they did. 1.33 KOs per game. Not bad, just averaging 1 1/3 KO per game. Isn't bad. It isn't amazing, but they would have broken into my top 10 on KOs per game. Like I say, I'm not someone that plays a ton with sweepers. I tend to share my KOs around my mons, so this was a decent average. I want to give Terrakion another try. I'm hoping it's going to be in Sword and Shield because I would like to give it another go. I think it's a mon that I could do a lot with and I could really enjoy using. Anyway, moving on from those two to Mega Gallade was one that shocked me that it would have made this list. I've only had this for 1 season, and it was my first ever season of Draft League play. ABC Season 1. I brought 7 games, apparently. I didn't make playoffs that season. I managed to get 12 KOs, which I didn't think I had. Like, I didn't think I'd done nearly that well with it. And only 5 feints. So, I mean, 5 feints in 7 games isn't insane, but in a season where it was my first ever Draft League season, for it to have posted up 12 KOs in 7 games, an average of 7.1, it's still really good. This would have been getting close to top 5, I think, overall. So, yeah, pretty short sample size there with only 7 games, only just making it over the cutoff of 6 games. But still, interesting stats. I'm not going to analyze these mons too much. They were just the honorable mentions that got close. Pretty similar mons in a sense. We've got double swords dancing physical fighting types and trio of kind of fast, I wouldn't say sweepers necessarily, as Terrakion and Gallade can be a little bit more wall breakers. So can Beedrill, bear in mind, with adamant adaptability. There's some similarities here. Beedrill being the real outlier, I suppose. But yeah, decent mons, decent mons. Moving on, let's actually talk about the mon that came in at number 5. Ooh, we got a powerhouse coming in at number 5, an absolute powerhouse, as Kyurem Black Infinite comes in at number 5. This took me to the IBL D-League Finals. I had it in the APA Academy, which was one of my worst ever Draft League seasons, but Kyurem still did work. It got so unlucky. That was one of the few seasons where I will talk about hacks, and Kyurem was one of the ones that repeatedly got hacks, which sucks. But yeah, in general, this thing's been a monster for me, and if it hadn't got hacked out in the IBL a couple of times, I think it would have had even better stats here. But 19 KOs, 12 feints, plus 7 differential in 17 games played, average KOs per game of 1.12. Nothing too shabby to speak about there. Obviously not a crazy high KOs per game average, but consistently getting more than just 1 in exchange, even if only just. And sticking around decently well with a plus 7 differential. It's not insane, 12 KOs in 17 games, but it's just such a good wall breaker. And I have quite a lot to speak about this one on the analysis side. You can see here I've got 3 items: the Choice Scarf, the Stadium Z, and the Ayapapa Berry. My favorite Kyurem are berry variants, be it Berry Berry, Chopal Berry, Ayapapa Berry, so some sort of 50% healing, or some sort of resist berry. I think they're probably my favorite Kyurem sets. I really love the 50% healing berries when you're bringing an offensive Kyurem, if it's coming as a revenge killer. So what you can do is you can bring it in on rocks 3 times, and then you get 50% of your health back, and then you come in on rocks twice more. It sounds really stupid, but you don't necessarily need a boosting item on Kyurem a lot of the time, so that's a really easy way to just give yourself a lot more longevity as a revenge killer with those 50% berries, which leftovers wouldn't quite give you that many extra rounds of switch-ins, especially if you're only on the field for 1 turn per switch-in. And then on top of that, I also liked running it with sub, so that you could sub down on things on the switch-in or on the switch-out, predicting them to switch. And if you got it wrong, then you could just sub down again and get your 50% berry back up to 75% and then switch out anyway or attack anyway. So it was a really risk-free way I found of just going for subs to try and gain advantageous positions behind a substitute if people were trying to sack things slower than you or something like that, so you would finish behind a sub and then just be able to rip through their team. Z moves in general are really going with this, whether it's ICM, ZZ, Freeze Shock. I ran Z Ironhead quite a lot. There are just a bunch of really good Z moves you can run this. You could run Z Outrage, Choice Items, Choice Scarf, and Choice Band in particular are really good. And for the team builder section, which I'm about to get into, we're going to be looking at some pretty fun Kirim sets. One really bulky Kirim set and one really offensive Kirim set, as I felt that was the best way to do this incredibly versatile mon, the most amount of justice I could. Yeah, I mean, I don't need to harp on about how good Kirim Black is. Look at its stats. It's an incredibly powerful Pokemon. So all that being said, let's jump into Team Builder and look at how I used it. So here we are in the Team Builder section for Kirim Black, and I have to apologise, I forgot to mention this before we cut to this section. Unfortunately, I don't have replays for Kirim Black because I pretty much only used it in Wi-Fi leagues. So I just don't have any replays available that are easy to kind of access and quick to kind of break down in the way that Showdown replays are. If you want to see me using this thing in action, these sets were all used on the channel, so you can go and look them up and watch the games. I will tell you who they're against. So this one was in the APA against Lynx Forte. I can't remember his team name. I'm really sorry. I feel like it was like something Bulu's. I can't remember his team name, but if you go back into the APA Academy playlist on my channel, you can easily find the game against Lynx Forte if you want to see this set in action. I'm really sorry that I can't provide those replays to break it down in a little bit more detail, but I'm still going to talk about the team composition here and stuff anyway, so I still will offer all the rest of the analysis that I did in the last episode for this mon. So, and I have an extra set for Kirim specifically to make up for it because I felt like there were 3 sets I really wanted to talk about. So here we go with Kirim Black. First up, we have the Spadef set. Now, Spadef Kirim Black was one of my favorite Kirim Blacks to run. It's just so damn good. You can see here we've invested a little bit in HP, almost max Spadef, quite a bit in attack with an adamant nature, a little bit of speed for people that are trying to speed creep like uninvested Kirim Black, and then a little bit in defense too. I'm sure these EVs had an exact spread and exact damage roll, reason that we ran them. But you get the general gist here of just running it super bulky, taking a lot out of attack and putting a lot more into your bulk so that you can really take hits better. And basically, the way that it works with EVs investment, I'm no expert on EVs. I have a front office to help me with this kind of thing. But the way it works with EV investment, to my very basic level understanding, is that the lower stat, the greater rewards of investing in it. So, for example, had I put those 244 into HP, I would have got, it's like the law of diminishing returns, right? I would have got less out of it because it starts with a higher base HP. So it was better to invest it in Spadef and make it especially bulky. It's kind of the opposite to you put your nature in whatever the highest base stat is that you're investing in within reason, as long as it makes sense to do so. So here, for example, let me give you an example of this, because this is something that maybe you guys don't know, so I'm going to break it down very quickly. We currently are hitting an attack stat of 228, right? With all my EVs have been used. I'm hitting an attack stat of 228, while we have a Spadef stat of 141. If I was simply to change that, let's remember that. 228, 141. 141, but now only 220 in attack. I still have 0 EVs remaining. All I've done is invested my nature in one of my lower base stats. But because of the way your nature works, the way that it amplifies, I guess, the stats, it's much better 9 times out of 10 to put your plus in the higher base stat here, and then to invest the rest with the EVs. So even though it's better to put my EVs in the lower stat, it's better to put my nature in the higher stat when I'm investing in multiple stats like this. If you're just running 252, 252, then obviously you don't need to worry. But yeah, that's the general gist of kind of how it works with EVs. I'm sorry that I can't explain it any more kind of effectively than that, but that's very basic level understanding. Sometimes when the stats are very close and your investments are very close, it doesn't really matter, but in a stat like this where it's 170 versus 90, you can see it made a really big difference. We lost out on 8 attack EVs, which could equal like at level 50 especially, that could equal like 20% of a damage roll, so that could be pretty huge. Anyway, we're running Outrage Ironhead Substitute. So the plan here, very much, I'm going to Z Ironhead his Fairy, and then I'm going to click Outrage. It's very simple. I don't care about your steel type. I have team support to deal with that. I'm just going to Outrage through your whole damn team. I'm guessing with Roost and Spadef, I can take on something, probably Moonblast from his fairy, whatever that might be, to make sure that I destroy even a Babiri Berry, let's say Clefable in this matchup. Talking about that team support, what kind of team support does Kyurem like? Well, especially if you want to run it as aggressively as this set kind of does, subbing up, Steelium Zing something, and then from behind your sub just outraging through the team. I very much remember that was the plan. Having something that pressures those steel types is really, really nice. And this is a really good way of pressuring the steel types. Gardevoir is a super underrated mon. Modest Choice Scarf is a pretty nice win con in a lot of games, especially with traceability. You can trace things like Sand Rush, you can trace things like Slush Rush, and Swift Swim, so you can be kind of a weather beater. You can Choice Scarf, you can trace like Speed Boost, and you can Speed Boost up. There's so many useful abilities. Trace is super underrated. You can trace Flash Fire against fire types, all sorts. But what this does to pressure the steel types is it hits them doubly with its stab. So steel types are a pretty telegraphed switch into this mon, and I feel like that's okay. Like it's actually quite effective sometimes to build an offensive core where you say, look, I know that steel types 100% of the time are going to come in on Gardevoir, and I'm completely okay with that, because you can also run Side Shock, so you can hit them if they're specially invested on the physical side. If you wanted to run like a spec set, for example, that might be something I'd do, so that I could scout out, see which side they're invested on, and then I could break them that way. But on a Choice Scarf set, what you can do perhaps more usefully is these two moves here. You can just straight out Focus Blast to damage them once you've tricked away your Scarf, or you can just trick them a Scarf. So something like a Bronzong, for example, that's really annoying for Gardevoir. I mean, if we were facing a Bronzong, we would run Shadow Ball anyway, but if we were facing a Bronzong, you could trick it your Choice Scarf, and then you could Shadow Ball it down as it locks itself probably into Stealth Rocks or something like that the next turn. If it wants to lock itself into Gyro, then we have a very good Steel type switch in here, and that's going to be pretty important. So once you've tricked it your Choice Scarf, have you got a way to switching into that Steel type once it locks itself into Meteor Mash, once it locks itself into Gyro Ball? Yes, we do. We have a Rotom Watch 4 times resist, and crucially regains momentum. So not only do we bring in our fairy type, we critically kind of hamper the steel type by tricking it a Scarf, which most bulky steels do not want at all. They want their recovery, because most bulky steels don't get any means of recovery. Things like Skarmory might have Roost, but something like Metagross, for example, that would be annoying for Kyurem, and this, it doesn't have any recovery. It's probably reliant on a Super Berry or Leftovers, or even, maybe a Shuka Berry if we were running an Earth Power Kyurem set. And then we go out into Rotom, and we just straight away regain that momentum with Volt Switch, and we can bring in something that actually beats steel types if they choose to stay in. So you can see here, this is pretty much just a stab Toxic Defog pivot Rotom with the Iapapa Berry. I was obviously expecting this to be a very fast-paced offensive game, so I preferred Iapapa to Leftovers. My general gist for these is it's always a judgment call. If you're stuck between whether to run Iapapa or Leftovers, or Super Berry and Leftovers, think about how long that mon will be on the field. If you know that mon's only going to be on the field for one turn at any time, if you're going to throw it out, click Volt Switch, and it's going to switch back out again like a Rotom Wash, then I would always recommend running the Berry. You can usually manipulate the situations and the EVs to make the Berry pop. Whereas with Leftovers, if it's only on the field for one turn at a time, it might not just get its recovery that it needs to take those damage rolls. So I always feel like if I'm building an offensive team, I usually favor the Berry with a pivot mon. But how else can we pressure those steel types? Well, we've also got Crobat here. So these two together pressure them in different ways. This one tricks it and hampers it, or can make a prediction with the Focus Blast that we had on this set. But this one lures them in and then U-turns out. I've spoke a lot about pivots that lure things in, and this is another good one, because this one brings in those bulky steels, being able to resist both of its stabs, and then it U-turns out. And you can see we are decently speedy and offensive invested. Crobat is a weak mon, but Brave Bird being 120 base power does kind of make up for that. We can trap bulky Psychics here as well, which is really nice for a mon we're going to get into in a second, but we can U-turn out. I don't know why we'd want to trap bulky Psychics especially, though. Was I trying to trap Psychics or Ghosts? Probably Ghosts. Probably a Ghost, actually. And I'll get onto why in a second. But yeah, with the Roost and U-turn, basically just for longevity, of course. But that pivot, just being able to bring out those steels and then U-turn out. And so what you do want to pair with Kyurem is a really good steel type breaker. So we've got two things that special steel types by also being resisted by them. If you're bringing a steel type to this game, do you bring it to check Kyurem? Do you bring it to check Gardevoir? Or do you bring it to check Crobat? If you're bringing a Metagross, do you bring it, Cassib Berry to take the Shadow Ball? Or do you bring it Shuka Berry to take the Earth Power? These are just kind of things that, examples that I'm giving. Once you've done that, once you've pressured all the steel types with all three of these mons, and it's torn between which one it actually preps for, then you beat the steel type with a life orb high jump kick, right? And especially if this thing's running reckless, and we did at one week, week 1, which we won. I'm pretty sure it was week 1. We ran choice banded. So then suddenly it's like, okay, you have a steel type that beats 3 of my mons, and maybe in the late game you could sit there and think, I have a great defensive win con in my steel type. Well, now you don't. Now you don't. Now your steel type is incredibly dead, and if it's Spadef, because it's designed to take Earth Powers, and it's designed to take Moon Blasts and Psy Shocks, and Shadow Balls and Focus Blasts, and it's designed maybe to take Heat Waves if you wanted to worry about that kind of a Crobat, well then it's not Fizz Def, and it's really not taking this high jump kick. So there are different ways that you can kind of build a team to pressure with 3 mons and then break with a 4th. And again, this thing U-turns after bringing the steel types in, goes back out into Mienshao, and then Mienshao goes crazy. So it kind of shows you how you can pair that momentum core together, and we could run U-turn on this as well, of course, but this is a really nice momentum core, and I'm guessing they had a ghost, so I could then double back into Adam Sandler predicting the ghost to come out. And look, if you want to leave your ghost in against potential Brave Bird and take all that chip and then not have a check to Mienshao, it's probably not a great play. So you're going to switch out, and I'm going to be able to pursuit trap you, and that's what's huge with having these mons that are not thought of as great pursuit trappers. Metagross is another really good example, which I've spoken about a couple of times here, but Pursuit Metagross I love, because it's not really thought of as a very good pursuit trapper, but if you bring it in on a bulky psychic that really needs to stick around to check a Mienshao, then they're going to want to preserve their bulky psychic. They're going to say, hey look, I need this, value systems and stuff, this piece is worth so much to me in this endgame, I'm going to switch it out, and you can almost always guarantee that you'll be able to get off those pursuit traps with things like Metagross and Crobat much easier than you would with something like Weavile, which they might say, you know what, he's going to trap me, I'm just going to stay in and click Signal Beam / Focus Blast, right? So with those ones, it's almost easier to get those pursuits off. Anyway, moving on to final on this team, we have a Seed Flare Psychic Shaman. Again, this thing hard walled by steel types, so I really obviously am just banking on being able to deal with the steel types with these 3, the kind of momentum core here, a good resist, a good lure, and a good breaker. But obviously, I could also run this thing with Earth Power, so I have lots of mons on this team that can bring in a Steel type and hit it with Focus Blast, can hit it with Earth Power, can hit it with Earth Power and beat them. You can kind of see how this team synergizes together, but this is an incredibly bulky Shaman. I'm sure I had my reasons, because I much prefer defensive Shaman that season, so I'm sure I had my reasons. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't have the replay for this, as I've said. Let's just jump into the next team. So here we are with the next team, guys, and this was from the IBL D League, as the next one will be 2. I really don't remember who this was against. Magnet Coco. I don't remember who this was against, so I'm really sure. Sorry, I can't shout out the exact game, but if you want to see more of these sets, you can go back to the IBL D League. Can I not get 4 EVs in anywhere? Wow, I just had 4 EVs that I could not invest. Could I have taken 4 out anywhere and made it? No. Wow, okay. Just ended up with 4 EVs that I couldn't do anything with. Could I have done 8 in defense? I could have done 8 in defense. Obviously just decided 4 is after bet. Anyway, I'm getting so sidetracked by this. We have Modest Tapu Koko here to partner with Kieran. Tapu Koko, Kieran Black, you're probably never going to get it in a draft league, right? It's probably never going to happen for you. I shouldn't have been allowed to get it. It shouldn't have happened. I remember Sohan OP Jealous and being fuming that I did get it. Yeah, this team was balked. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. So, yeah. This is great team support for Kieran. If you can get it, I remember I helped Tony draft it recently. If you can get it, get it. Don't think twice, get it. If you draft Coco round 1 and Kieran's still there, like, just do it. Don't think, should I, shouldn't I? Yes, you should. Simple as that. I don't think we actually have it on this set, but yeah, we don't. But Fusion Bolt, powered up by Electric Terrain for those bulky waters. So damn nice. So damn nice. But anyway, even in spite of that, Magnet Coco, really good wall breaker Coco here with Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, double electric stab, is incredible support for Kyurem, because I just mentioned those bulky waters that Kyurem doesn't necessarily love. They probably are about the best check to Kyurem, because it does get Earth Power for steals, although you can just run Shuckerberry lures on steel types, but they probably are about the best check as the bulky waters. So having something that just outright beats the bulky waters is really, really good. And actually having something that can come in on Scald and not worry too much about a Scald burn, because this thing has okay base defenses. Like, they're not crazy good, but they're okay. Oh, I'm sorry, my nose is driving me crazy. Itching like crazy. Because it's predominantly a special attacker, obviously his stats don't suggest it, but his move pool does. You can quite often be running special and not have to worry about a burn, which is really, really nice. Taunt is just nice team support to stop things from being annoying too. Next up we have Scissor. Bullet Punch Scissor. Again, just like in the last thing we spoke about, pressuring those steel types. Really nice. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm getting notifications in the corner. But yeah, it's really nice to pressure those steel types, just like I mentioned in the last team builder. This does it really well and then hits them with the superpower. So if they want to come in to try and take the bullet punch, we're going to hit them with superpower. Hidden power ice on this set. Who was this against? Who was this against? I do not remember. Either way, pretty funky looking EV spread going on here with the 4 special attack to get all that hidden power ice damage off expert belt. I don't remember this. I feel like this was against a Gliscor. Whoever had Gliscor. I feel like it might have been Sork. No, I think the next one was versus Sork. Yeah, I think the next one was versus Sork. Anyway. Decent team support, and crucially a really nice U-turn pivot. So also pressures the bulky waters because they do resist bullet punch, and if they want to come in on the bullet punch and get U-turned out on, you will get nice chip. This is a really strong base 130 attack mon, so getting that U-turn off will be super nice. Scissor is decent support with Kieran Black. They're not like crazy together, but they're okay. And one thing that's quite nice is you don't have to face this thing, which can be annoying for Kieran being able to bullet punch it and stuff and being able to resist its ice and dragon stab. So yeah, that's one nice thing together. This is, again, I wanted to show this really bulky Kieran. So I spoke about a kind of Spadef Kieran in the first one. This is a super Spadef, solely special Kieran. We actually have a negative attack nature, even though we're running the Dragon Tail. This set is so obnoxious. This is what we like to call a Sean Special. A Sean Special would probably be a little bit more like Dragon Tail. Come on, I hate when it does this. Dragon Tail Substitute Roost. This would be more like a Sean Special. Basically what you do is you sub up, you're bulky as hell, they can't break your substitute, and then you just Dragon Tail them around for 20 turns while they flounder trying to break your Kieran and trying to switch around on you, and it's so annoying. Yeah, this is very much a Sean Special, but this set is very similar. What was it? Ice Beam, Dragon Tail. I now can't remember the set. I think it was Earth Power, Roost. But this set is very similar, just in terms of being like, alright, well, I already have base 120 attack, so special attack, sorry. So I don't even need to fully be like investing into my special attack. I already have decently strong moves. I can pivot out anything that might want to set up on a more passive Kieran set, and this is clearly meant to be a lure for something with the Roselli Berry on there, although I'm not sure. It's a very confusing set, this, because it's not running steel coverage for a fairy. What kind of fairy would I be able to hit with like an earth power, for example? Magina? Unlikely, because how would you know if it would run fairy or steel stab to hit you? Weird. Fairy fire? I don't know what this set was for. You'd have to seek out the video. As I said, I don't know who's against, but you get the idea of how bulky you can kind of make Kieran with this set. Partnering it again with another good pivot here in Gliscor. Unfortunately, I wasn't running U-turn on this set, but again, just a mon, lots of slow pivots that can get Kieran in for free, because Kieran, again, can be one of those mons that in certain speed matchups, you can struggle to get on the field. You can look at certain speed matchups and be like, okay, how do I get Kieran on the field? Because it doesn't revenge kill, you know, it doesn't revenge kill Infernape. It doesn't revenge kill Nihiligo. It doesn't revenge kill Mega Pinsir, right? Half these things on my team, it doesn't revenge kill Scissor. So you'd be like, how do I actually get it on the field in the first place? And a lot of the times, you know, it doesn't want to switch in on Tapu Koko or whatever. A lot of the times a good way to get it on the field is with a slow U-turn. It can be a really good way to get things like this on the field, or making doubles. But that can be a really effective way. Knockoff also is super nice support for Kieran. Honestly, Knockoff, getting lots of mons that run Knockoff, this is something I should have mentioned earlier, is really nice team support for Kieran, because getting rid of things Shuka Berries, getting rid of things Yachi's Berries, getting rid of things Haban Berries, you don't do that very often, but Babiri Berries is really useful, because most people, that's an exaggeration, a lot of people will run a resist berry to try and check Kieran. That's a really common way. So that knockoff team support is really cool. Was this? No, that was knockoff to begin with, wasn't it? Yeah. That was one I changed. There should be superpower. So it's just a really nice way of supporting Kieran. Then this thing. We have the revenge killer that we were just talking about needing. Mega Pinsir plus Kieran Black is horrifying for teams to deal with. Absolutely horrifying. How do you check both these menaces? I mean, look at this team. How do you check these four? How did I not win a championship with this team? I'm such a scrub. I did get the final, but still. Broken team. This thing, again, really pressures those steel types, and it doesn't give a shit about bulky waters. Oh, hello, bulky water. Take this adamant return and die. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, this thing's really strong. It can close combat or earthquake through bulky steels. It's just, again, really good team support with Kieran in terms of beating Kieran's checks a little bit. It also, obviously, really beats fighting types, so fighting types that would otherwise come to revenge kill Kyurem. Maybe you're a little bit scared of coming in this matchup because they are just free revenge killing Pinsir, and then how the hell do you switch in on Pinsir? So there's a little bit of that. One thing that isn't great between them is they are a little bit weak to rock, so you do need good defog on this team. But other than that, they pair pretty nicely. And then at the end, we had a we had a Spadef Neoligo. I think this was for like a Raikou or something. No, we ran Spadef Nihiligo a lot. Again, Nihiligo isn't crazy good with Kyurem. It's all about beating those steals. It's all about breaking those steals. These three together, those steals go down, and once those steals go down, if this was a more like offensive, you know, Scarf Sludge Wave, Scarf Power Gem or something, then suddenly you'd be looking at, okay, I'm going to sweep you with my Nihiligo now because my Kyurem's just baited in and killed your steel. My Scissors just baited in and killed your steel. My Mega Pinsir's just baited in and killed your steel type. So that's more kind of how you would use Nihiligo generally on a team of this composition. I just must have had Spadef for this specific matchup. But yeah, that's kind of this team with the Kyurem. Let's get into the final Kyurem team builder. So here we are with the most fun Kyurem team builder, and this was, I'm pretty sure, against Sork. I'm pretty sure this was against Sork, again, in IBLD League, so go and check that out. Yeah, this was fun. This is a min speed, negative speed, choice band, outraged Dragonclaw Ironhead. I'm just running Dragon Stab, and I'm running the move for fairies, and I'm running Roost in case my band gets knocked off or I want to Roost sometime. Yeah, this set was insane. Shout out to Ben. This was very much a Ben moment of madness that I was like, actually, Ben, for every 30 ridiculous things you say, you do say one good thing, and this was that. I'm trying to remember Sork's team name if you want to go and look up this video. It was right at the end. It was one of the last games. I can't think what the title was or what his team name was. I want to say it was like... No, I'm not going to speculate. Anyway, Choice Band, Adamant, Brave kills everything. And we have a double Trick Room support on this team here. Trick Room Nihiligo with min speed and Trick Room Yuxi. If you want to bring Trick Room in Draft League, Yuxi is, as it is on the ladder, by far and away one of the best Trick Room setters. It's really, really bulky, so it should be able to take a ton of hits and get a Trick Room up. It can then U-turn and Memento out, and it can get rocks up too. I hate sets with no offensive moves, and I wouldn't class U-turn as an offensive move here. I hate sets like that generally, but in this case, I knew that it was just good team support, and I knew how crazy Kyurem's matchup was in this game. I think he just had, like, not good steel types, not good fairy types, and I was like, alright, I'm killing stuff, everything's dying. I think this was against Sork. I'm now doubting myself. I don't know. Anyway... yeah, this thing basically just sets Trick Room and then U-turns on Mementos out into Kyurem. This can beat the steel types, which we can't touch if there are any. We have an amazing, just like I spoke about Rotom Wash on the other team that we had, the APA team, I drafted Rotom Wash plus Kyurem Black. Well, this time I drafted Heatran plus Kyurem Black. It's kind of the same principle, but this team had other momentum grabbers. So it also had Rotom Mo and had Gligar to grab momentum, as well as Scissor too. So it did have another really good steel resist that can U-turn out, although this set is looking pretty heat too, that can U-turn out. I don't think this was against Sork. I don't think this was. Nah, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I had other momentum grabbers against steel types, but I also had a really good wall breaker that I could bring on a steel type. So, okay, you go into your Metagross and you click Meteor Mash. I go into my Heatran, and now you got to switch in on a Fire Blast. Now you got to switch in on a Magma Storm. We were running Z Solar Beam clearly for a water type in this thing that would break through his bulky water as well. So, you can see here just that team composition again of, alright, what's the most common switch-ins and revenge killers to Kyurem Black? What this also does really well is breaks those bulky waters. So if we were running a predominantly Ice Stab Kyurem Black, we would now be able to break them with the Gracium Z Solar Beam, which is one of the reasons that this was a Z captain on the team. Phenomenal mon. I love Heatran to bits. And yeah, we were running at negative speed nature to use that Trick Room as well. Then we have Scissor. I've spoken a lot about Scissor and Kyurem already. This was one of the few times I ran a Swords Dance set with Bug Bite, Natural Gift, Apricot Berry. I couldn't even tell you what natural gift that gives. Fire? I want to say fire. Maybe. Could be flying. I don't know. Regardless, it's free heat. Why did I run Ironhead over Metal Claw? Is Metal Claw just better? 80 base power, 50 base power. with 1.5 boost makes 75. Yeah, so it's not better. Okay. Regardless, you get the idea. Bug bite, of course, boosted by the technician boost, so that it's actually more powerful than U-turn now, I think, because U-turn's 80, isn't it? Not 90. 70, in fact. So a lot more powerful than U-turn, but obviously if you're sword sensing up, you don't necessarily want to U-turn out. Again, negative speed nature to partner out a crazy Trick Room team. Look at this EV spread. This is getting funky. 4 attack because I had 4 EVs left over, I'm assuming. I could have put them in defense. Why did I put them in attack? What was I thinking? If you know, comment down below why I put 4 attack on this Neo Ego. Just to get the foul play rolls, clearly. Yeah, this thing's just a Trick Room setter, predominantly massively Spadef. So we've got a physical defensive Trick Room setter and a Spadef physical Spadef defensive Trick Room setter, so that I can set up on different things. Yeah, just fun sets. Fun sets all around. And then again, we have another U-turn grabbing Gligar to be able to get in Kyurem. And the game plan of this game was basically set Trick Room, get in Kyurem, get in Kyurem, get in Kyurem, and then at the end maybe sweep with one of these two, or sweep with Kyurem under Trick Room. You'll have to go and watch the replay to find out how it happened. It is uploaded on the channel. Maybe look for a title like Banded Kyurem or something like that. Regardless, guys, that is the end of the team builder section for Kyurem. Hopefully you enjoyed these sets. I feel like I went on for way too long, so I apologize. Regardless, let's jump into the next mon. Next up on the list, coming in at number 4, we have another incredibly versatile one in Infernape, Wukong. Wukong is here. This thing has been on 2 teams that I've drafted on the, I wouldn't say, UBL. It's on my UBL team, round 1 pick, caught some flack for taking it round 1, but I wasn't bothered. And PBA, where I also took it round 1, long before that, when I wasn't quite as good of a player as I am now. I'm still trash, but I was really trash back then. And this thing kind of, it's got a little bit of Keldeo syndrome, where it's kind of in here based on how many games it's come to. With only 0.91 KOs per game, it doesn't have a huge KOs per game average, 21 KOs and 14 feints, plus 7 differential. 7 differential is not bad. It's 23 games. But yeah, really the fact that I've brought it to 23 games, you will have noticed from these stats, I don't draft things more than twice, really. I'm not someone who just drafts the same thing 5 leagues in a row. I would do more than I have, but I tend to get yelled at the front office if I draft the same thing repeatedly. So we've tried no end of monster in this generation, and Infernape definitely making the top 4 has been one of my favorites. In the UBL, its KOs per game and stuff would be a lot higher than what you're seeing right now. This was kind of dragged down by my relatively poor PBA performance. I did make playoffs that season, but I played in a very defensive way. I mean, I brought FizzDef, full FizzDef leftovers in Infernape 1 week for a Bisharp, I'll never forget. So yeah, I definitely played a lot more defensively that season, and I used Infernape a lot more as a pivot, just a U-turn pivot. But I actually think Infernape can be really good at that. I think it can be really good at coming in, forcing switches, U-turning out, and then bringing in something with more outright power. So if you're looking at that 104 attack and 104 special attack, let's say you want to U-turn out, predicting them to go into their bulky water, and you just U-turn out into your Tapu Koko, then suddenly you have your Tapu Koko in, which arguably is a more powerful wall breaker. There are other ones too. You could U-turn out, predicting, I don't know, a bulky Psychic to come in and go out into your Weavile. You'd get the nice super effective U-turn chip, and then you could pursue the round with a Weavile. So this thing can function pretty well as a as a U-turn pivot, but in the UBL, when I had more joy with it, I ran it a lot more setup spam. I've included the Expert Belt and the Choice Band on here, as I do think that Choice Specs, Choice Band are pretty decent on Infernape. Yes, it's not massively strong 104 mixed attacks, but it's okay, and it has high base power moves. That's a crucial thing. Close combat, Fire Blast, things like that are pretty high base power. Flare Blitz, Focus Blast too. But then with the Expert Belt, with its great coverage, things like Grass Knot, stuff like that, it can really do well as like a setup, Nasty Plot, or Soul Stance variant. So we're going to look at some of those kind of different offensive Infernapes that I brought in the UBL. Just like the problem that we had with Kyurem Black is that these weren't on Showdown, they were on Wi-Fi, so we won't have any replays, unfortunately. But hopefully you guys will still enjoy the team breakdowns on how I built using Infernape. So here we are with the team builder section for Infernape, and as I said, sadly I don't have any replays for this one either, but I'm going to try and be faster than with the Kyurem one, because I didn't have any replays with the Kyurem one. I tried to go into more detail on the team builder, but I'm afraid that might have been boring, or you guys might not have enjoyed that, so I really apologize if that was the wrong direction to go in. I'm going to try and speed up for this one. We only have 2 teams for this anyway. So this the first one was used in the UBL week 3 or 2, against Serene Grace. And we brought Banded Ape this week because my opponent's switch-ins were Sylveon and Mandibuzz and Victini. So I really felt like Banded Ape could just go crazy. Clicking Banded Flare Blitz when neither of her switch-ins were fire resist just looked really, really good. I could have ran this thing Adamant, but I did fear Victini a little bit, and I wanted to be able to revenge kill Scarf Victini after a V-Create. I wanted to be able to revenge kill something like Banded Victini after a Bolt Strike or something like that. So I did decide to run enough speed to outspeed Victini on this set, but I could easily, if they hadn't had a Victini, I could easily have gone Adamant on the set as a just pure wall breaker. Banded Iron Fist boosted Mach Punch is pretty nice too. Of course, we don't have a crazy high physical attack, but just as I said in the kind of analysis section of Infernape, 120 base power close combat and 120 base power flare blitz. These are high base power moves, and that really does make a difference to your damage output. Even if your base stats are marginally underwhelming without boosts, with the choice band 1.5 times boost and the high base power of your moves, it really does kind of make up for that and make the difference for that. Plus Stone Edge is really powerful coverage at 100 base power, and that is something that neither Sylveon nor Victini nor Mandibuzz resist. In fact, 2 of the 3 are weak to it. So again, this was a fairly spammable move in a lot of situations in this game. All I had to do was position this thing carefully and then just absolutely tear through my opponent's team. Now, why did I want to kill those things in particular? This is a game where I'm not talking about supporting Infernape as a win con, but instead Infernape being great team support. And I think it's evidenced a little bit with my Infernape stats, how I used it. It didn't get a crazy number of KOs per game. It just got maybe 1 KO per game, but it got a crucial KO that opened up the game for me in this game particularly. So what was this thing designed to do? This thing was designed to kill Mandibuzz. If it could kill Mandibuzz, that meant that this mon at the end here that paired with it so nicely a lot of the season would be able to go crazy, and that was Choice Scarf Diggersby. These two together were so good. So good, because if you want to sweep someone with Choice Scarf Earthquake, a fighting type that brings in bulky flyers is phenomenal team support, right? Phenomenal team support. Something like, I don't know, Scarf Moxie Crocodile, Scarf Diggersby. Really, really good partners, but also the things that want to come in to check this, so flying types, sure, but also grass types lose to Infernape. So as a Choice Scarf pivot, if a grass type does come in to try and check you, you can U-turn out straight into Infernape, and then you're clicking Banded Flare Blitz against their team, and they don't have a switch in, or you're setting up with the Swords Dance or a Nasty Plot. So as a pivot, this pairs really nicely with this. Also as a pivot, this kind of pairs quite nicely with this, because if like a bulky fire wants to come in, something like Victini, for example, and I U-turn out, then I get to go into my Diggersby to click Earthquake. So these two can pair pretty nicely. Something like Arcanine, for example. These two can pair really nicely as both a momentum core and the synergy of breaking for each other, beating each other's checks, which is really, really nice. Double priority, of course, as well. They just made a really awesome pair all season. We also had a Yachi Berry physically defensive Salamence on this team with Intimidate. This was our dedicated Victini check. This thing could just come in on Victini, roost up, potentially take a Glaciate with the Yachi Berry, Earthquake it down. I think it was guaranteed with this investment to Oko Victini after rocks, and also to Oko a Victini after -1 drop from V-Create. I think that's what I was running with this set here. Can't touch Mandibuzz, and that's really huge. Once you've seen Defog, Earthquake, and Roost, Mandibuzz could kind of be lured in at this point, and that's really nice, because if you can get a Toxic off on Mandibuzz, and that thing is also getting 1 down for Diggersby. So this kind of supports Wukong in the sense of once I claim my KO with Banded Flare Blitz, let's say I take out the Sylveon first, then when Scarf Victini comes into Zen Headbutt, hey, I can go straight out into my Salamence. I'm going to tank that Zen Headbutt pretty well, and I'm going to be able to roost it off and pivot pretty nicely around. So having a good fire resist in this case was really, really nice in this game, because Victini in particular was a bit of a threat. But in general, this thing was also really nice for water-type revenge killers and water-type checks that could otherwise come in on Infernape. Infernape could basically bring in something like, I don't know, let's say a Jellicent, right? And you could then be like, oh damn, I'm stuck in against this Jellicent, it's going to scold me, it's going to Will-O-Wisp me. Well, you can go out into your Salamence, you resist that, and you can even run Special Salamence pretty easily and bring like Specs Draco Meteor, for example, and then just run through that mon. So these two did work pretty nicely together, actually. It's also a really good ground immunity for Infernape, so something like my own Diggersby that could have been a bit of a problem with an Intimidate ground immunity, I could have switched in. People don't appreciate how bulky Salamence is, and I actually ran it bulky a ton that season, so yeah, another really nice pairing. This thing got dropped because it sucked. Palisand was way better. But yeah, it was a fine partner with Infernape. It wasn't as good as Palossand was. I don't have too much to say on Cofagrigus. I didn't use it very much. Basically, we brought Knockoff in this game to get rid of Mandibuz's leftovers, and Toxic, potentially Toxic it. It was also running Psychic and Pain Split with a Rocky Helmet for a Mega Lopunny. Really straightforward set, again, just in the hope that it could wear down Mandibuzz. I think also there was a Ditto, and I really wanted to get rid of Ditto's Choice Scarf, which was pretty useful too. When you're prepping for a Ditto, it's important to make sure you have checks to everything. So for example, this thing, unless it locks into Stone Edge with Ditto, can't necessarily beat Salamence as its Choice Scarf Ditto. Can't beat Cofagrigus very easily either, and Cofagrigus can knock off the Ditto's Choice Scarf if Ditto wants to copy me, even though I can't really touch it that well. I can Toxic it and knock it off. So that was pretty nice too. And we have Big Steve here with the Shuca Berry, Meteor Mash, Earthquake, Toxic, Stealth Rocks. This was my only Stealth Rocker really on the team at this time. One thing I would say is don't draft Infernape because you think it's a Stealth Rocker. I only drafted Infernape, Metagross, and Lycanroc Day as my Stealth Rockers on this team, and that's why I need the Palossand, because none of those are great Stealth Rockers. Big Steve's the best of the bunch, but he doesn't want to be running Stealth Rocks every week, so this was just our dedicated Rocker, because if you're facing a Victini that does kind of open up your team a little bit, you do need Stealth Rocks. Very, very Spadef for Sylveon with Meteor Mash, just to come in on Sylveon basically and probably guarantee a 2-hit KO with that investment with Meteor Mash. Again, pretty walled by Mandibuzz, but Toxic to wear down that threat. Sometimes it's that simple. It's just that simple. Hey, I'm gonna slap on Toxic and I'm gonna wear you down with Stealth Rocks plus Toxic, and then eventually my Scarf Earthquake's gonna win. Last but not least, we have a Pixie Plate Whimsicott, which can come in on Mandibuzz relatively well. It doesn't want to take its Flying Stab, but can come in on its Dark Stab and stuff. If it comes in on, say, Metagross, we can go out into Whimsicott and threaten it pretty well with a Moonblast. Pixie Plate Boosted was pretty good in this game. Stun Spore for things like the Mega Lopunny and the Victini to slow them down with the Prankster Boost, of course. And that's one thing that I would say that I didn't draft enough on this team and didn't use enough, is that I should have used a lot more speed control with Whimsicott. Stun Spore plus Tailwind as support for Infernape is incredible, and I really should have abused that a lot more. I think I would have got a lot more out of Infernape if I had abused that, but still, this was still a very respectable set. So yeah, that was kind of the first Infernape, just dedicated banded wall breaker, meant to specifically remove one Pokemon from this game so that one other Pokemon can win in the end game. Very simple, very straightforward, but very effective way of composing your team. Let's move on to the next Infernape team. So the next Infernape team is a little bit more complicated. This is a team I brought also in the UBL versus Goldoa Dragon. If you want to find that one, it will be on the UBL playlist, and the thumbnail has a shiny Licky Licky. It definitely has a Licky Licky in the thumbnail, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly. I think the title is just like the tongue out emoji. But this was a slightly more different, a slightly more complicated Infernape team, where Infernape was supposed to be a setup wall breaker. Again, designed to remove one or two specific checks, and I'm trying to think what they were. I think it was a Slowbro, and also to beat a Skarmory, and to capitalize on the passive nature of a Skarmory, and Licky Licky, and to capitalize on the passive nature of Licky Licky. So sometimes you can look at your opponent's team composition and you can say, hey, look, their team composition is really, really passive, and actually I can get them in on that to set up repeatedly throughout the game, not just once, but 3 or 4 times, and I can abuse the hell out of that. And that's really what this team was designed to do. So with the slow Volt Switch here on Rotom Wash to get Infernape in the first place, a Mon that comes in on, say, the Slowbro that I've already mentioned, and Volt Switches out as that switches into something else, say the Licky Licky that otherwise could wish up on Rotom, it doesn't really fear Rotom. That's really nice team support. This was actually a Fizdef Thunderwave set designed to slow down a Mega Charizard X and stop that thing from setting up on me and beating me. Next up, we have Warren with the Assault Vest here. This was a fun set. Shout out to Eric Strongfall, came up with this set. This was Assault Vest Spadef to take on a Tapu Koko. It took like nothing from Grass Knots and Dazzling Gleams. A really fun set. It did work in this game. And Wild Charge abusing the Tapu Koko's electric terrain. Yeah, if you ever draft Tapu Koko, have a look at Diggersby, because Wild Charge in terrain was so much fun that game. 2-shot in a slow bro that thought it could come in on me. Nah, mate, you're not coming in. I'm hitting you so hard right now with this terrain boosted Wild Charge. I remember him like running the calcs and being like, well, this shouldn't do too much because he's so Spadef, he won't have any attack investment. And then it's like, boom, Wild Charge with just this little bit of attack investment, goes crazy. Huge Power is such a good ability. Yeah, Return Earthquake, Wild Charge, U-turn. Again, that momentum core, we're just pivoting around, we're keeping the momentum up on such an offensive team. Talking about those special Salamences, this is a Habanberry Salamence. This is worst case scenario. Everything's gone wrong. Charizard's got to +1 and it's got a KO. Fine. I'm going to go into my Habanberry Salamence. I'm going to Intimidate you down. You're going to be a neutral attack. And then I'm going to Oko you with Draco Meteor. That was the design of this set. Hidden Power Flying for... the Mon with the horn, Heracross. For Heracross, Fire Blast as well, which probably hits Heracross too, but for something else, I can't quite remember what. And Roost. This thing probably loses hardcore to Licky Licky, but every time Licky Licky comes in, I get to use something else. This was predominantly just a Charizard X Lure, and like I say, if he wants to bring in his Spadef Walls, Fire Blast for Skarmory. If he wants to bring in his Spadef Walls, I have something to deal with that. Next up, we have Sharpedo, Focus Sash. One of the few times I didn't run Z on this. This was a last gasp, last case emergency Cocoa Beater, Liquidation Crunch, Earthquake. I think it did work in this game. I'm pretty sure it did. But yeah, really just such a good mon. And it does pair pretty nicely with Infernape, and I'm going to talk about why a little bit. Infernape is really, really good at beating bulky waters. It doesn't look like it on paper, but for example, I once ran a Specs Focus Blast set to beat a Vaporeon that was brought physically defensive, expecting to have to take close combats. I've brought a Nasty Plot Expert Belt Grass Knot set to beat a Suicune that was expecting to be able to wall me. There are lots of different ways that you can build Infernape to beat bulky waters, especially with Z-moves. I never ran it with Z-moves, but you could do even more readily with those. I also ran Pasho Berry on it sometimes to be able to take a hit from the bulky waters as I just chip them down. Infernape is a fantastic way of pressuring bulky waters, so mons that like having bulky waters broken, like Sharpedo, love having Infernape on the team. And again, I have that bulky water pivot here in Rotom Wash. So that's pretty nice. Then I spoke about Palossand being better than Coffer Grease in last team composition. It really was on this team. I wasn't actually bringing rocks on it this week, which really surprises me. Wow, I just didn't bring rocks on this against Goldoa. I guess I felt like I would be more likely to defog than he would, because he had like a Skarmory and stuff. So yeah, I'm guessing I just said, hey look, I'm going to be defogging, so there's no point in me bringing rocks. This is just a Cobra Berry Lure for something, I don't quite remember what, so pretty standard looking set, all things considered. I love putting a little bit of speed on my Palossand to catch people off guard. That's really fun. To outspeed something like Slowbro, for example, and then be able to Shadow Ball it. Anyway, final mon on the team. We have the Infernape that we've been working towards, and you can see here exactly what I was talking about. This is a Nasty Plot Expert Belt set, so this thing is designed to say to Slowbro, come on in Slowbro, your dual typing walls, my dual stab, I can't touch you, I can't touch you, please do come in. But I can. I have an Expert Belt Grass Knot, and it's going to really hurt. And this is why this thing is so cool. And I had Expert Belt Flamethrower, I had Expert Belt Focus Blast for Licky Licky and Skarmory. +2 Focus Blast would have destroyed Charizard X had I not missed it in the actual game. But yeah, this thing just was so good in this matchup. And you can see here how bulky I built it. And that is so that I can come in on Seismic Tosses from Licky Licky and not care, so that I can come in on Iron Heads from Skarmory and not care. I'm sure I probably take a Brave Bird from Skarmory and don't care. I'm sure I take an Earthquake. I definitely will take an Earthquake from Licky Licky. I've built this to take an Earthquake from Licky Licky and not care. I'm sure I probably take a Scold from an invested Slowbro and don't care. So the idea is just, alright, I might only trade 1 for 1. I might be able to trade 2 for 1, but I'm breaking something that you vitally need in your defensive core to be able to stop my other offensive mons from just going crazy. And you can see this team was really centered around keeping up the momentum, catching things out with lure sets, and just removing pieces until Sharpedo could come in and clean up the broken bits that remained at the end of the game. So I really love this type of Infernape. This type of Infernape I ran more and more throughout the season. Swords Dance / Nasty Plot with 3 attacks and an Expert Belt, or a Resist Berry with a lot of bulk. I thought they're fantastic. I really think this is the most I could get out of Infernape in Draft League was running it like this. So anyway, let's move on to the next mon. Now, as we get into the top 3, we are getting into the kind of busted section. This is when I started to hit my stride in Draft Leagues. These are the 3 mons that when I started to regularly post up in playoffs, started to regularly kind of hit quarterfinals, semifinals, finals. These 3 mons, They tagged along for the ride. All of these mons have at least made a semi-final with me in the top 3. So, yeah, and I've drafted them all at least once, obviously. But how did I say this? You'll see. I won't spoil that. We'll get into this. So anyway, top 3. Third place is Mega Medicham. Shout out to Stephen Thurston for the nickname. He called his Mac Medicham around the time that Mac Miller passed, and I just shortened it to Mac, and I've been using it ever since. I love Mac Miller, so really enjoyed that nickname when he used that around that time. But yeah, Medicham, Mega Medicham, broken. You look at these stats: 510 base stat total, 100 attacks, rubbish, right? Huge power. Is it huge power or pure power? It doesn't really matter, they're the same thing. That attack stat being doubled, and it isn't doubled so it doesn't have a base 200 attack. That's not how it works. It's doubled after your investment. So if you run Adamant, and then you run Max Attack, and then you double what that hits, it's more like hitting a base stat of like 240 or something, or 220, I think. It's bananas. Like, it doesn't just double off 100 because of the way the investments and EVs and everything else works. It's pretty nuts. This thing is so damn strong. And high jump kick being a high base power move means that things just don't switch in. If you're not a fat psychic, you don't switch in. Like, you just don't. And then if you are, like, I don't know, if you're a fat bug, if you're a fat flying type, catch this Zen Headbutt. That's still an incredibly powerful mon using stab, even if Zen Headbutt isn't the most powerful stab. Ice Punch coverage for flying types, Poison Jab for fairies. This thing is broken. Let's look at those stats. 32 KOs, only 16 feints, plus 16 differential in 26 games. And that's the thing that you'll see with me, is that the total number of KOs are never going to be that crazy, because I just don't draft something 45 times. So you're never going to see 60 KOs. You're never going to see 50 KOs. But 32 KOs in just 26 games, KOs per game of 1.23 for something with only 100 base speed is pretty impressive. Like, this thing just goes crazy. Averaging 1.25 KOs per game, plus 16 differential is pretty huge. And I did actually use this. This thing's stats have been dragged down slightly from when I used it for like 4 games when I took over a team. Me and Ben were just having some heat sets with stuff, and we ran a fully Spadef Mega Medicham to take on a Hydreigon against Stephen Thurston, coincidentally. It didn't really work. It kind of worked. It was like fully Spadef Drain Punch. It kind of worked, but not massively. Yeah, we had some fun, and if it hadn't had those 4 or 5 games kind of dragging it down, this thing's stats would have been even more bananas. The KOs per game would have been closer to 1.82, I think. It would have been right up there. But I did use this thing properly in the NPL and then the SCS, and I really loved it. It took me to quarterfinals in the NPL and in finals in the SCS. So yeah, just a bananas Pokemon, so good. The team builder section is going to be fairly obvious because it's a Mega Medicham. Like, I don't believe in mixing it up too much. If it's got one set that works really well, you just run that one set all the time. But we can analyze that a bit more, and we do have replays for this one, luckily. So let's get into Team Builder and talk about it properly. So here we are with the Team Builder section for Mega Medicham, and this is probably going to be the last Team Builder section that I can record of the night, maybe. So if my clothes change for the next one, I apologize. It's just I left it a little bit late today to start recording. Regardless, we have a substitute Mega Medicham for this first one. This was in the NPL against Pesky Skitty. Again, the video of this is up on the channel if you do want to go and check those out. But we do have the replay available to us here because this was a Showdown League, so I can actually talk about this one through the replay, unlike the last two, unfortunately. This was designed to basically sub up on the threats that it scared out, or to sub up scouting for Protect. A lot of people want to run Protect for Mega Medicham, especially when it has an incredible matchup. When it has such... If you look at Mega Medicham matchup and you realize that your opponent has no switch-ins, quite often they'll try and run Protect because they'll think like, alright, if I can catch him with a high jump kick on the Protect, take 50% off the Mega Medicham, then that's kind of it dealt with, half dealt with. Doesn't really work like that, because if you can bring substitute to those matchups, if you can afford it because you don't need the coverage, then it will just go crazy. We've got Ice Punch on this set to hit like a Bulu, a Vullaby, a couple of other things that are relatively inconsequential. Mostly I could just high jump kick through my opponent's team. Very standard EV spread. I'm not doing anything crazy here. I've just got up to a decent HP number and maxed out my attack, and speed crept. Maybe a base 95, I'm not quite sure. But what I do want to talk about is team composition around Mega Medicham. Now, you'll have seen some teams with Mega Medicham in already in the last episode, but you're going to see a few more in this one. As we do see Barney here, the Tyranitar we spoke about last episode, partnering it. So I spoke about why these two were such good partners last episode, and we saw some replays to prove it, so I won't harp on about it again. But again, just coming to Pursuit Trap things, What this thing can do, a little bit underrated, is Pursuit Trap. Not just Psychic types, but Flying types too can be pretty useful. But in this particular matchup, Choppleberry Pursuit was for a Mega Alakazam. I would usually run a set more like this against Mega Alakazam. Well, if I can eventually get my thing going, there we go. I'd probably run a set more like this against Mega Alakazam normally, but I can only assume that for whatever reason, I needed a bunch of speed in this matchup. I felt that I needed this. So, yeah, this is just more of a wall-breaking Tyranitar designed to trap Zam as well as wall break. Next up, we have a Flyinium Z Tornadus. Best Tornadus in my opinion. Just bop things with the Fly Z and go crazy. Knockoff is really, really nice for getting rid of, say, there's a Rotom Wash in this game, getting rid of its Super Berry. Getting rid of things, Rocky Helmets that might be on there for Medicham. But also, this U-turn pivot. This is a thing that will force switches. Hurricane with max special attack is a really strong base power. 110 plus 110 from Flying. And Flying is a really, really good offensive typing. So this is something that will force a lot of switches. With this Regenerate, I mean, it can come in a bunch of times. And you can bring it in really aggressively because it's decently bulky as well. You can bring Tornadus in a load of times, scare something out, and click U-turn. And specifically in this matchup, it's like Rotom Wash is a dedicated switch in. So let me U-turn out as your Rotom Wash comes in into my Mega Medicham. And now I outspeed you, and I'm going to claim a KO in this match. And so this is another really nice pivot to partner with Mega Medicham. I actually took Mega Medicham round 1 in the NPL, and I caught some flack for doing that. But yeah, it was fantastic, and I took this round 2. I was the second from last pick before the wheel, and so I knew I would probably be able to get Tornadus T the next round anyway. So I was like, all right, let me just make sure I got the Mega I want, and I'll take Tornadus when it comes back to me. Anyway, then we have a Sash lead, just Stealth Rocks, Endeavor, Taunt, Archeops, really basic Sash lead. I haven't even bothered with a proper EV spread, you know, I've just said, okay, let me get Rocks up, let me Endeavor something, let me Taunt something, very, very simple. But that little bit of chip means that Medicham is even more likely to pick up those KOs. So, yeah, really nice in terms of just having a dedicated Sash lead to make sure those Rocks go up. This was to check a Bulu, and again, I spoke a little bit about Scolipede and how you can just, like, have this Regenerator core and pivot around. I did that a little bit this season with Mega Medicham and Amoonguss and Slowbro. Mega Medicham is as good as it because Mega Medicham isn't a dedicated sweeper, but what it is good at with this is that Amoonguss infuriates things and it forces switches. So if it comes in and something just can't break it, you can actually really reliably double with the Regenerator core of Amoonguss and Slowbro, because you know that those things are, there is just some things that just can't break them. In this game, I have the Piappa Berry to take on a Tapu Bulu with Zen Headbutt, so the Tapu Bulu is going to know I cannot beat this Amoonguss, and that is a free double for me into Mega Medicham if I want to use it that way. And then last up, we have a Life Orb Sandrush drill. It's probably not going to be great with Sandrush with Tyranitar in this matchup. If Tyranitar is going to be Pursuit Trapping a Zam, it's going to take huge chip from Focus Blast, even with the Choppleberry. But, you know, it's still here. It's still a decent partner to Mega Medicham. I would say with a better Sand Setter, this would have been a better partner to Mega Medicham. But there's not a huge amount of synergy here. They do... Yeah, there's not crazy amounts. This beats the Fairies with its Steel Stab. That's about it that I can really think of that's that incredibly useful. Yeah, for the most part, there isn't crazy offensive synergy between these two that I can really see. But still, it was decent. Drill Run, of course, because I was facing a Tapu Bulu team. Adamant, just designed to be pretty strong sweeper. So that's the team. Let's look at how it actually got on in the battle. So here we are with the battle, guys, and you can see my opponent's team very, very scary. Kieran Black, Mega Alakazam, Tapu Bulu. Like, this was a really good draft, and I think at this point, me and Pesky, I was close to giving up essentially on playoffs. I had a really bad start to the NPL, and I was not playing well around that time. And Pesky, I think, was also like a little bit outside of playoffs and trying to veer into playoffs. And this was around the time that I basically said in the NPL, like, I'm going to stop caring so much. I'm going to stop, and what I mean by that is overthinking. Like, I was overthinking chronically. I was taking 20 minutes per turn. I was so paranoid, thinking through every eventuality, and I was like, I need to just start clicking buttons a little bit. And this was one of the first games where I really started taking that mindset in. So we just lead off with Archeops. Like I said, this is brainless playstyle right now. I've got a Mega Medicham. Why am I trying to think? Get Rocks up. Mega Alakazam can come in pretty easily, Psychic me for KO before I can Endeavor something. I don't think it's going to Focus Blast, because Focus Blasting when my best player looks to sack my Arceus, Archeops. Arceus, I wish. it's really rough, because if I do just stay in and sack my Archeops and you miss Focus Blast, that's a really, really poor turn for you. So I don't think the play was ever to Focus Blast it. It could have been to Psychic or Shadow Ball, and either of those I was completely fine with as I pivot out into my my Tyranitar. Now, it could have been Dazzling Gleam, I guess, but I was obviously just confident it wasn't. I was feeling myself. I was clicking buttons. And it does get this Spadef drop. This sucks, but I do get an extra 10 of Sand Chip, which makes all the difference for damage rolls and stuff. And it now no longer has Magic Guard, so it can't switch back in on rocks if it gets too low. So that's really, really nice too. So all I'm going to do here is just pivot back into Archeops because of the unfortunate Spadef drop. I took that risk by switching to Tyranitar myself, and now I go back into T-Tar. I'm not showing an item, so the Chople Berry is fairly obvious. And I'm just going to say, alright, I'm taking your Medicham, your Alakazam from you, and this is incredible for my Medicham, because this is looking at my opponent's team, this is their only Mon outside of Scarfers that outspeeds Mega Medicham. So again, talking about, how you support your Mega Medicham to just go crazy in matches, this is how you do it. You get hazards up, you remove their only revenge killer on a team like this, barring Scarfers. You just got to find the Scarfer after that, and it'll be pretty obvious from what comes into revenge kill it. And you can go crazy. So we do get the pursuit off, we get a lot of damage, and I'm just going to stay in here because I don't know if they're even going to risk going for the second Focus Blast when the next turn of Sand put them in range of rocks. They were at 16%, so another turn of Sand would have put them in rocks range. Was it worth them Focus Blasting and potentially missing? Maybe. Maybe they just Shadow Ball. It doesn't really matter either way. They're not coming back in, so I'm just going to stay in and click Pursuit again. As I do just Shadow Ball, now Volibee comes out, and I'm like, alright, I won't chip on you as well, so I'm just going to Stone Edge on this thing. I'm not going to let it defog for free, because I think that would be a really poor play. And now I'm going to go out into my Tornadus, as this thing does outspeed me. Could potentially pick me off, I don't know. But this thing does outspeed me with its +2 speed, but it has -1 defense. I can go into Tornadus, and I can try and lure out that Rotom Wash and just click a U-turn. And this is exactly what I was talking about, partnering that momentum core with Mega Medicham, because now I'm clicking sub. And we see that this has transpired exactly as I thought in my team composition, right? As I was building this team, I was like, all right, Mega Medicham goes so crazy, right? So crazy. And they do have a Ghost, which is a dedicated high jump kick switch in. But it's slower than me, and it doesn't want to take a Zen Headbutt. So, again, it's kind of a free sub, because if they go Marowak, all right, well, now I'm going to Zen Headbutt you. If they stay in, all right, well, maybe they Volt Switch and they break my sub, but they've would have just essentially given me their Rotom, which meant that Hurricane went crazy. So I don't think they could ever just give me their Rotom. So I got a free sub in this situation, and now I can Zen Headbutt. They are forced to give me their Rotom because I don't have to high jump kick anymore, right? I'm behind a sub. I don't have to take that risk, so I can just Zen Headbutt. They are forced to give me their Rotom, or massive chip on anything else they wanted to go into. If they wanted to go to Volibee, I would just high jump kick it into Oblivion. And then they go out to Tapu Bulu, and I'm like, alright, so Tapu Bulu is probably the choice Scarfer on this team, right? Because if I had Poison Jab, this thing gets absolutely decimated. So it's looking like Choice Scarf Bulu. So again, we've Pursuit Trapped the one Mon that Revenge kills me naturally, and we've already figured out what the Choice Scarfer is almost certainly. So that's really good information. I still have my Sand with my Excadrill to sweep, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, if that thing goes down now, this Rotom goes down to 22%, if I can get Rocks, I can't get Rocks back up, but if I can get some chip on Rotom somehow, maybe with my Tornadus or my Medicham, Iron Head, Drill Run, Rock Slide. I'm suddenly looking really good with an Excadrill under Sand, so preserving that Tyranitar in the end did work out for me. Out comes the Kieran Black here, but as I said in the team builder, once they see the Amoonguss come in and they see no item here, this recovery is from grassy terrain that we're about to get, not from Black Sludge. This screams Resist Berry. This is saying I'm not a Rocky Helmet, I'm not Black Sludge, so what am I? I'm probably Piappa Berry. I'm pretty sure you're Choice Scarf from the fact that you use this to try and revenge kill my Medicham. So I'm pretty sure you're not going to Choice Scarf Woodhammer me again. And even if you're not Choice Scarf, I don't think you're going to Zen Headbutt me. I don't think it's the right play. So I'm going to make that aggressive double that I just mentioned in the team builder into Mega Medicham, using that Regenerator Sponge to get Medicham in for free. And now I'm clicking High Jump Kick, because you know what? Grassy Terrain's up. If you want to go into Marowak, that's fine, but I don't think you can ever let me substitute. Because if you go to Marowak and I substitute, and then I destroy you the next turn with Zen Headbutt, I'm about to blow through your whole team behind a substitute. You can't do that. So again, I've just forced a KO on a Kieran Black, on one of the best Pokemon in the format, that never even got to click a move. It never got to see its item or click a move or do anything by just figuring out what's the Scarfer, pursuit trapping the other mon, and just basically going crazy, showing that sub. And that sub can really do that. That mental impact of showing your opponent, if you switch out your Kieran Black here, you're giving me a free substitute, and you're just going to lose to Mega Medicham. Mega Medicham with substitute really can do that, where it's just like, okay, I know that you're not going to go into your ghost type and risk it, so I'm just going to high jump kick. I forced your hand, and I'm going to high jump kick. Again, Tyranitar can trap ghost types, which is really nice to free up high jump kick too, as well as the bulky psychics, and we are just going to pivot into it here and pursuit trap this Marowak. Now, that obviously doesn't completely OHKO it because it's a very, very bulky Marowak. I think deliberately designed to try and take on Mega Medicham with the leftovers there. But still, we do manage to get 65% off. It's not taking his own headbutt, that's for sure. And Tyranitar has just taken out the two things that handle Medicham best of all. Tyranitar's also got the sand up, so that's really good for Excadrill. Tapu Bulu has to come in, but Amoonguss is still there just chilling and is able to easily deal with this thing. And I believe at this point we can put it on hyper fast, because from this point, yeah, we're just going to sludge bomb into the Marowak, sack the Tyranitar, I think, because I realize that I don't need sand to win this game. Get into Tornadus, click knock off to catch the Rotom incoming, and then Z, thinking that Vullaby would stay in, actually doubled out to scout for the Z. Really good play by my opponent. His win con at this point could just be defensive Vullaby / Scarf Bulu, but I mean, Scarf Bulu can't 1v1 me with Zen Headbutt when I have an Excadrill around, and it can't 1v1 me with Grass Stab when I have an Amoonguss around. So yeah, we can pretty easily just stay in here, even though I know this thing's Choice Scarf. If he Choice Scarfs into Stone Edge, that means I get to go into Mega Medicham, and I get to click High Jump Kick and OHKO the Vullaby coming in. Then he goes back into Bulu, and he revenge kills me with with Scarf Woodhammer. Well, he then loses to Amoonguss, or he kills me with Zen Headbutt. He then loses to Excadrill. So essentially, by staying in here, I guarantee that Medicham the next turn could potentially win the game, barring like high jump kick misses. But also, what I can't do is the one thing that could be really annoying for this team is if I let Vullaby roost up to full. Could be quite irritating, which if I just go straight into my Amoonguss here, he could do that. So I don't want to make that risk. So I'm just going to stay in and Hurricane again. As he does make the double into Vullaby, trying to catch the Amoonguss and roost up on it. I'm not going to allow that to happen. So we do just keep spamming Hurricane here. And essentially this is going to seal the game. I had Taunt on this set, so I could easily have taunted this before he roosted, but I just didn't bother because I just thought I'll just Hurricane him and kill him, but then I missed a load of Hurricanes. And at this point he scarfs himself into Zen Headbutt, but it can't even 2-hit KO Amoonguss with the Pyappa Berry, and we're able to just Sludge Bomb him for the KO. So you can see there kind of how Mega Medicham with that substitute just was able to force KOs with the Pursuit Trapping support of Tyranitar, was able to get rid of the Fastmon that Revenge killed it, and was able just to apply a ton of offensive pressure in this game, where even though he had a Ghost, a Fairy, and a Psychic type, all three of which in theory should be high jump kick switch-ins, I still was able to high jump kick his Kieran freely because of the kind of mental games. I mean, obviously, these aren't the bulkiest of their typings, but you know what I mean. That they have to be to even deal with Mega Medicham, and once you reveal a substitute, then they don't deal with it in any way. So yeah, really, really fun team composition here, really showing off substitute Medicham. We have a more standard Mega Medicham, if it can get any more standard, coming up next. So here we are with the second team builder for Mega Medicham, and as I said, this set is arguably more standard, but the team support is a little bit different, a little bit similar, but a little bit different. So this was against Trog in the SCS as well. We have Choice Scarf Kartana because Choice Scarf Kartana is broken. We have a substitute Leech Seed Whimsicott, and one thing that Kartana loves is Mega Medicham. I should say this because, alright, you want to bring a Steel type, it dies. And now I win the game, and that was about the only thing that could switch into my Scarf Smart Strike anyway, and I'm going to win the game with that, or my Scarf Leaf Blade. It also loves the fact that bulky flying types like Zapdos, for example, probably want to switch in on Mega Medicham and then get decimated by an Ice Punch, so these two partner really incredibly well together. This thing just being able to get massive chip off on Steels, fighting types, yeah, those two in particular. And this thing being able to beat through the bulky waters, the fairies in particular, and even potentially knocking off the psychic. So yeah, really, really nice combination, those two together. Mega Medicham the breaker and Kartana the sweeper. I love these two as a pair. Then as I say, this Whimsicott fairly standard. It does pair nicely with Mega Medicham. I wish I'd used Tailwind on it a lot more to support Mega Medicham. I think I would have got more out of it that way. But in general, it is good team support for Mega Medicham, and it's a good pivot. One thing that I'm not running here is U-turn. I'm running a really obnoxious sub-seed set, but as a U-turn pivot, it could have been really good too. Just to get Mega Medicham free, I've already spoken about pairing Mega Medicham with a lot of momentum. Next up, we have this Heatran, which also beats the steals for Kartana, which is pretty nice, but also comes in on the bulky Psychics really, really happily for Mega Medicham. If they want to click Shadow Ball, Psychic, Focus Blast, oftentimes a Spadef Medicham, Spadef Heatran will take a Focus Blast, non-stab Focus Blast, so it can kind of come in on those things and pressure them, potentially Magma Storm them, keep them in, but in this case it was just a physically defensive rocker. It's also got nice for pressure in the bulky waters, and Mega Medicham beats the hell out of bulky waters, so that's pretty nice as a pair, as does Kartana. Yeah, in general, Mega Medicham really has one check, and it's Psychics and Ghosts, I guess, so they're the only things that you really have to worry about. So how much you need to pair with it, there's not a lot that it needs. It doesn't need a whole lot. One of the things it loves, though, is Tyranitar. I will never stop singing the praises of this trio in particular. I adore. Again, a Pursuit Trap in Tyranitar, Adamant with the Assault Vest and a lot of HP and Spadef. This thing is clearly designed to trap a bulky Psychic and stop it from going anywhere. Ironhead to help wear down the Fairies too, and Stone Edge, of course, just for powerful stab. Earthquake or Edgequake coverage is really, really nice. Hits most things in the metagame. Next up, this is the kind of different team spot I was talking about. This is a Sticky Webs team with Mega Medicham, and that is really, really nice too, if you can get it. I'm not like a massive advocate of Sticky Webs. I think it's kind of cheese sometimes, and I also think a lot of web setters are flat out terrible Pokemon, but Araquanid is not one of them. Araquanid is a beastly Pokemon. I actually ran this kind of Araquanid a bunch, which is a really passive Scold Araquanid, but it's just so damn fat, so bulky. That Spadef is huge. Its defense is not bad. Its HP, okay, could do some work, but with investment, it quickly gets up. Skull plus Icy Wind means, okay, I'm not easy switching on with physical attackers because you might get burnt, and I can slow down setup threats with me being quite passive with the Icy Wind. Protect leftovers means I'm going to stick around forever, and this beast with Mega Medicham, Sticky Webs and Mega Medicham, means that everything is dying. Now I am a revenge killer. Now I get on the field as much as I want. One of the key things that you have to do when you draft Mega Medicham is think, how do I get this on the field? Is it by drafting, regen sponges that I can make doubles with? Is it by drafting slow pivots that I can U-turn and volt switch with? Is it by drafting Sticky Webs where suddenly I can revenge kill things with Mega Medicham even if they're naturally faster than me? This is a really, really nice thing, and it also makes certain Scarfers not as good revenge killers. In the last game we saw Scarf Bulu, well, with webs down, Scarf Bulu wouldn't be able to take this poison jab. So it's really, really nice for that too. It can really mess with your opponent's prep. Again, very standard set, but this time Adamant because I'm running it on webs. High Jump Kick, Zen Headbutt, Poison Jab, Fake Out. This is pretty much the Smogon set, other than it would be Ice Punch over Poison Jab. But yeah, very, very standard set. Generally, I don't click Fake Out and I don't run Fake Out. I think it's a terrible move that is vastly overused. Nearly always you can just high jump kick because people click moves predicting the fake out and stuff. I think fake out should only be if there's like a setup sweeper that you're really afraid of, like a Lanoon or something, some cheese like that, then okay, fake out. But people that like to run fake out leads and stuff, I'm a big hater. Anyway, let's jump into the game and see how well Medicham got on with this webs team. So here we are with the game against Trog, and as you can see, he's brought some monsters, some beasts, so to speak. He's got UB Stakataka, UB Celesteela, the Beast Yanma, UB Buzzwole, and UB Xurkitree hiding behind a Mega Altaria here. So yeah, 4 Beast Boosted Mons. I got another Ultra Boost of my own here. A Mega Altaria and a Yanma. Shout out to him for using Yanma, that's pretty spicy. So, one of the reasons I brought Fake Out Mega Medicham was just for an annoying Sash Yanma. So I am going to lead off with the Mega Medicham here and just try and fake out and break his Sash. But he brings Protect! This man brings Protect! He's crazy. He's really crazy. Trog is out here. I'm going to double into Heatran, or I'm going to switch into Heatran, sorry, on the Bug Buzz. And now I'm just going to Lava Flume as he reveals a hidden power ground. But I'm Sugarberry. I came prep for your Yanma for the threat. We do bring him down to his Sash. And we snag the burn because it's Lava Plume. It's not Magma Storm or Fire Blast. It's Lava Plume. That's 30%. It's like running Scold. We're going to pivot out onto his into Whimsicott. And again, this is what I was talking about. Whimsicott being really nice for Mega Medicham in just terms of wearing everything down. A really obnoxious sub-seed set here that is just going to basically push him around for a few turns, get on his nerves, wear down his threats, be annoying for him to deal with, get seeds up. And I could have tried to go into Medicham and stuff if I'd been able to seed something other than the Celesteela, but Unfortunately not here. And here he makes a really aggressive play and leech seeds on my stealth rocks, which is pretty fire to his credit. And then gets in his stack attacker on my lava plume, which just drops, so it didn't work out that well in the long term. Out comes Buzzball, and I just pivot into Arachnid, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Positioning your Arachnid, which is so damn fat to get webs up, because look at his defoggers. Do you see them? I don't see them. Is it Mega Altaria? I don't think so. Regardless, we're going to pivot into Heatran. On this Celesteela, he reveals the Protect, which is really crucial information. Once I saw Leech Seed, I was very much anticipating Protect, but it's good to confirm that he has it, because that's going to be important for my Mega Medicham later in the game. And I'm just going to keep wearing him down with Heatran here. I'm happy to lose my Heatran, and here we make the aggressive play. So again, I've spoken a lot about this. Don't be afraid to use Mega Medicham aggressively. I don't think he's ever going to air slash a Heatran. Like, what is he going to do? He's probably going to Protect. He could double Leech Seed, but he's probably going to Protect. Double Leech Seed would be annoying. But we do get the Medicham in on the Protect turn, and now it's like, wow, something's dying. So we click Fake Out here, expecting him to Protect on a high jump kick. He doesn't. We get the 8%. He gets it back with leftovers. Here I Zen Headbutt, expecting the Protect. Now this is a brave play, I will concede. Maybe I should have just high jump kicked, but I said, screw it. He's going to Protect, and I Zen Headbutted, and he did. And it worked out nicely. And now I get to high jump kick, and can we just talk about that? Pivot into Mega Medicham on the Protect, the Zen Headbutt on the predicted Protect, and now what? Because even without my webs, you're slower than me, Mega Altaria, and I'm poison jabbing you. Scarf Circuitry to revenge kill me? I've got webs up, I'm high jump kicking you. Ah, that's a nice Buzzball, maybe that was Scarf. Doesn't matter, I'm Zen Headbutting you. So quick, like that. We've been going for what, 19 turns with things just ticking along. A little bit of Leech Seed spam, a little bit of Noxious playing around, but we just slowly got our rocks up, broken any sashes, got our webs up, slowed everything down. Now Mega Medicham Oko's your whole team. This thing is insane. Completely insane. So I could have just let Heatran go down there, admittedly, and got the 5-0, but you know, you gotta flex. You gotta flex sometimes when you're playing with Mega Medicham. You gotta get it in on those aggressive plays and just go to town. Yeah, this was a fun one. This was a real fun one. Mega Medicham is insane. Regardless, let's talk about the next Mon. Next up, second place, the runner-up, the second best Pokemon according to total KOs that I have used in Gen 7 draft leagues. We have Blaziken, nicknamed Weishan, and if anyone's played Sleeping Dogs, you will understand that reference. Great game, but I haven't played it in years, and I mean, I'm talking like 2013, I want to say, on the PS4. That might be too far back. My second year of uni. I was living in a little box room. Man, that was a good year. Well, it wasn't, but it was. It wasn't, but it was. Yeah. If you've been to university, you know exactly what I mean. But yeah, Sleeping Dogs, great game. Blaziken, look at those stats. 35 KOs, only 12 feints, plus 23 differential, 17 games played. I told you I was hitting my stride when we got into top 3. 2.06 KOs per game. Are you crazy, Blaziken? What is wrong with you? 2.06 KOs per game? Nuts. Nuts. For a Mon that most people like, if it doesn't have speed boost, it's bad. This is all Blaziken. None of this is speed boost. I've never had a speed boost Blaziken. I love speed boost, one of probably my favorite ability in Pokemon. And I've never even got to use this thing speed boost. I've only used a Blaze, and it's still posted at the stats. Now, those are between LTC, which is a low tier format, but still, this thing was like tier 1. It wasn't like well, yeah, it was tier 1, but it wasn't like broken. It wasn't like top tier 1. It got undrafted, I think, the season before, and I think got undrafted the season after, which is just insane because I didn't get to draft my team. Otherwise, I would have been picking it again. I then picked it up in Surge, and I kept it all the way with me until semi-finals in Surge, and it was an MVP there too. This thing is just bananas good. Bananas good. Like, it's like... Infernape is really good because it has a great speed tier, it's a great revenge killer, it's got great setup on both sides, it's got great priority, and all that stuff is fantastic, but people see Infernape, the prep for it is maybe not straight damaging as straight off the bat. This thing, I forgot to put items on this thing, I'm just realizing, I think after Mega Medicham I forgot to put items on, my bad on the graphics side, but regardless, this thing is so good with Z moves. I only ran it with Z moves, which might be why I didn't bother to put it on, but I've got a feeling I've just forgotten. I only ran it with Z moves, and I only needed to run it with Z moves, like Z Solar Beam with Grassium Z, Fightinium Z High Jump Kick, Fightinium Z Focus Blast, Z Flare Blitz, like Z Fire Blast. that's all I ever needed. I don't think I ever ran anything else. I think it was just Grass EMZ, Fire EMZ, Fight EMZ, depending on what I was trying to wall break. I'd then always run Flame Charge, Substitute, or Sword Stance. I'd always have one of those three depending on the set. And then I would always run Dual Stab and one coverage move or a combination of those other moves that I said. And that's all I ever did. I never needed to run, like, I don't know, some bizarre, funky, like, hidden power poison or nonsense. Just run Dual Stab. I might have ran Z Bravebird or Bravebird once or twice, I don't know. But in general, this thing just is so damn strong. And after a Flame Charge, because a lot of people won't bring Scarfers to try and revenge kill it, they're in a little bit of trouble. It isn't super weak to priority. You can kind of build it bulky because of its speed tier. Its speed tier also is super underrated. The thing that this thing struggles against, and this is why it's so good in Draft League, Blaziken on the ladder, for example, really doesn't like offense, because fast offense kills Blaziken because before Blaziken gets a chance to do anything, right? It doesn't like being outsped a lot. But in Draft League, most people play a form of balanced playstyle, and this thing is one of the best balance breakers and defensive breakers out there. Like, those mixed attacking stats, its high base power moves, its setup opportunities, Z moves, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. And if I was coming up against like a HO team in Draft League, I might not bring it, or I would have to bring like a Flame Charge set because its speed, it doesn't love it. It's revenge killed relatively easily by faster threats. It doesn't come onto the field that easily against monsters like that. And that's something that I would talk about a little bit in the play style, in the team builder and replay section. But you can kind of use this thing aggressively, and sometimes you kind of have to use this thing aggressively, doubles and stuff like that, to even get it on the field. Very much the same as Mega Metacham. I'm sure I would have spoken about that in that section. I haven't recorded that section yet. I'm revealing hidden secrets. I record all of this bit before I record that bit. But yeah, it's a very similar thing where you have to make those aggressive doubles sometimes to really get the most out of this mon. Regardless, insane mon. Let's get into Team Builder and talk about exactly how I built with it and exactly how I played with it. So here we are with the Team Builder section of the video for Blaziken, and the music in my headphones is just marginally too loud, so I'm just going to crank that down a little bit. And I want to apologize because my clothing's changed, the lighting's probably changed a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of disconnect between the Team Builder and replay sections from the kind of number sections, if you like, where I announce the mons that made the top 2. As we are into top 2 here, just because these videos take a long time to record, and I did have to record this one across 2 separate days, so I apologize for that little bit of inconsistency, but hopefully you guys don't mind that too much. Regardless, here we are with the Team Builders section for Blaziken, and this first set was in a game against Tony, a good friend of mine. Tony and I hadn't played ever at this point. We've known each other for like a year and a half, probably 18 months-ish, but had never got to play. This is our first game, and this was in the Surge tournament. If you guys don't know what the Surge tournament is, or what the Surge format is, you basically start off low tier, and by the end of the tournament you redraft, and you end up high tier. But my team actually stayed all the way into the semi-finals, pretty low tier. I actually had like 11 points left over, I think, in the semi-finals. So yeah, I stuck with my low tier guns in this format and really enjoyed it. Anyway, let's talk about Keldeo here, the first mon. This thing forms a really nice pair with Blaziken. I spoke about this a lot in the Keldeo section of the last video. If you didn't see that, go check that out. But yeah, Keldeo just basically partners really well because double fighting spam can be really difficult to deal with. This is a choice scarf variant designed to revenge kill non-choiced Kartana, which could be a potential problem for this team, and non-speed boosting Kartana, which could be a potential problem for this team. This thing can revenge kill that, and also can just pressure my opponent's team pretty well. My opponent didn't have very good fighting resists at all. It was things like his psychic type was a Bronzong, which wasn't a fighting resist. His flying type was a Swellow, which wasn't a fighting resist. So yeah, he just had a bunch of like not great fighting kind of resist on his team, or no real fighting resist on his team because of the way his typings worked out. So I really felt like a Choice Scarf Secret Sword would be a potential win con against him. Moving on to the next one, we do have the Fire EMZ Flame Charge Blaziken. So I spoke a lot about in the last section about how Blaziken struggles against kind of offense. Well, this was a very bulky team. Like, Tony's playstyle is very bulky. I knew coming into this game he would probably bring like 5 bulky mons and a Kartana, because Kartana had a good matchup against me initially. That's why he traded it in. I then traded in a Talonflame of my own to counter him a little bit, but yeah, for the most part, he had a decent matchup against me. So I knew that his playstyle was fairly bulky, so I figured like a Flame Charge Sword Stance set would be pretty good here. I don't necessarily have to boost my speed, but I did talk a lot about Blaziken struggling against faster threats. And there are some things such as Kartana, Swallow, and Rapidash, which were a bit of a threat. You know, he did have 3 Mons potentially coming on his team that could all outspeed me. He then also had things like Komodo and stuff. The thing with Tony, though, is that I was aware that he would probably build bulky, and even though on paper he could outspeed me, that didn't mean he necessarily would outspeed me. So just dual stab, I spoke a lot about that with the sword stance, basically meaning, look, I'm going to be able to break through your fat. I can potentially sword stance up on something like Bronzong, flame charge it up, and then just sweep your team potentially, but all I really need is my dual stabs, because Blaziken's dual stabs are just so good, and the Fire EMC, so I don't have to take recoil if I don't want to. Really, really nice. But also, one thing that's quite nice with Blaziken, again, relying on that high jump kick. I spoke about this in the Metacham section a little bit. People are going to run Protect against you, so being able to get the Sword Stance off when they go for the Protect, or being able to Z them through the Protect is something that I've done a ton with Blaziken, a ton when people try and catch me out with a high jump kick, and they basically sack them on they thought was safe to the Z move, breaking the Protect, so... Next up, we have the Talon Flame. This thing is just designed to kind of take on Kartana. It would have been nicer as a team partner if I could have ran U-turn on it, so that I could have brought in bulkier things and U-turned out into Keldeo or Blaziken. But in this particular case, I just couldn't do it. I needed to be careful of those revenge killers that come in on Blaziken. And Kartana isn't the worst revenge killer in the world, as its dual stabs don't hit me, but it could easily be running Psycho Cut to hit me, have the coverage. And Blaziken, whilst like not super frail, isn't super bulky either. If it's like already taken some prior chip, and I tend to play my Blaziken pretty aggressively, you know, flame charging, sword dancing, the likelihood is, if I haven't flame charged or if the Kartana's Scarf, he could come in and Scarf Psycho Cut me to revenge kill me. So I do have to be a little bit aware of that. Talonflame, therefore, a very good switch into one revenge killer, and then Bronzong here, a very good switch into the other one, which would have been Swallow. With this bulk, we'd be able to take mixed Swallow's hits, so we'd be able to take physical Swallow very, very nicely, and I don't think Boom Burst Swallow does an awful lot to even just max HP Bronzong, because Bronzong is so fat. So yeah, I felt like this was pretty decent. And this actually was my win con, so much as I could pivot this thing on a Swallow, my game plan more so was just to kind of sack things to Swallow if I had to, and then potentially bring this in for free and Calm Mind up, depending on the situation. This thing, basically, he didn't have a Dark type on his team, so Calm Mind, Psychic plus Shadow Ball swept his whole team. His own Psychic resist was a Bronzong too, so I could basically beat down his Bronzong with a Shadow Ball, Calm Mind, Rest, and just run through his whole team. Nothing could break this on his team, particularly barring like a... Sword Stance Kartana, but I was able to Calm Mind up with this little bit of special attack investment and just ruin Kartana with Shadow Ball, so that's the kind of flip side of Kartana, I guess. Then we have Black Sludge Spadef Nido Queen here. This thing was designed to help out with Swallow a little bit, not hugely because it isn't massively Spadef and it isn't a resist, so but it does help a little bit, but more so it's here for the Rotom. He has a regular Rotom, it can come in on that, get rocks up, taunt it to stop it from defogging. I've got quite a lot of speed, potentially outspeeding his Rotom, and Toxic the Rotom. No, I can't touch it really, I don't have anything to hit it with, my one offensive move is resisted, but I felt like that was okay. I felt like all I needed to do was Toxic the Rotom and get Stealth Rocks up and really pressure it so that my high jump kicks would get freed up. And again, I spoke about this a little bit in the Metacham section. When you are spamming high jump kick, you do want a way to pressure those ghosts, because they are probably going to come against you. And this was a pretty nice way in terms of, to his mind, he looks at this set once he's seen it revealed and thinks, okay, well, I pretty much wall this Nido Queen with my Rotom. But all I need is that Toxic plus Rocks on Rotom to really, really wear it down and find a gap for Blaziken plus Keldeo later in the game. And, you know, if I can't necessarily win with Blaziken, maybe I can just break the Rotom with Fire EMC Flare Blitz, and then Secret Sword can sweep later in the game because he has no... fighting resist. So yeah, I said at the beginning he had no fighting resist. He did have fighting immunity. I completely forgot about his ghost, but still. So this again, this core plus this is really going to pressure that ghost type and hopefully be able to pull something off. This thing coming in on Kartana all the time basically brings Rotom out a little bit too, and can potentially Toxic Flamethrower it on the switching. And then last up we have a Kebia Berry Whimsicott, designed to take on his Komodo, because Komodo can sweep this team. Plus one Komodo can easily sweep this team. This thing does kind of revenge kill it a little bit, another reason to have Scarf Keldeo here. But if I don't have enough chip on it, then I'm not going to be able to pick it off with a Secret Sword, so or a Hidden Power Ice. So I do really need something that can kind of guarantee to get chip off on Komodo. This thing can come in if he Dragon Dances, I can Encore him into Dragon Dance. If he's Belly Drum, Salax, Sub, then I can Encore him into Belly Drum or Sub. I can also defog at Energy Blast or like Moonblast. So pretty nice team support. Again, I really would have loved to have had like U-Turn, Tailwind and stuff like that to support Blaziken better, but because I can't run as much Tailwind or Sticky Web or Speed Control as I would really like to, not like Thunder Wave or anything like that on this team, because I can't do anything like that for Blaziken. Instead, we're going to be looking to boost our own speed in this matchup, and it is something that I think is really important with Blaziken, is that you consider what your speed control is, how you are going to deal with fast offensive things like Rapidash, like Kartana, like Swellow, because if you don't consider that, then Blaziken does become a bit of a sitting duck or sitting chicken maybe. But let's jump into the game and see how it worked out. So here we are in the game, and as you can see, this is a pretty tough matchup in a lot of respects. My opponent has an immunity to both of Blaziken's stabs. I can't be spamming high jump kick with a ghost round, and Flare Blitz isn't going to do anything to a Flash Fire Rapidash. So on paper, you might look at this and you might say, okay, Blaziken, wow, it might struggle in this game. Or you can kind of look at it and say, wow, Blaziken eats this with a high jump kick, this with a Flare Blitz or high jump kick, this with a Flame Charge, for goodness sake. This doesn't want the Fire EMZ, this doesn't want a Flare Blitz, and this doesn't want a high jump kick. So in a way, if you can switch up your moves and outspeed everything on your opponent's team, then suddenly your dual stab actually does go crazy in this game. And that is kind of the beauty of fire fighting types, that they can just, the dual stab I've found has matchups so frequently, especially if they had Gov coverage. So I basically just want to get my rocks up as early as possible in this game to pressure the Rapidash most of all, but also I don't have good switchings to Swellow, as we've already established, so I would like to be able to make that thing take a lot of chip on switching. He does get the Spadef drop on the Shadow Ball turn 1, which really sucks, but it's okay because here I can just Toxic the Rotom, kind of expecting him to want to defog. I can get a nice Toxic off and put that thing on a timer. And now I can go back, try and get my rocks up again. He might predict me to switch out. This Shadow Ball isn't going to do too much, just 32. I've got my rocks up again. And here what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to taunt him this turn, predicting him to probably defog again. I'm just going to taunt him, but he is in a difficult position because basically if he keeps spamming defog and I keep spamming rocks, 1, rocks has more PP, but 2, he's poisoned and I have Black Sludge, so I eventually win that 1v1. Now, I did think he could potentially just try and Shadow Ball me down for chip and just remove my Nidoqueen, but if he wanted to make that exchange, I was fine because I would happily lose my Nidoqueen, keep rocks up, and have Rotom down to, say, I don't know, 30%, where suddenly it really doesn't come in on Blaziken anymore, and it really doesn't come in on Scarf Keldeo. Scarf Secret Sword does look decent in this matchup, as this is his only resist/immunity. So again, I'm really happy just to pressure that Rotom. So I am just going to go for the taunt here, I believe. No, I spam rocks to begin with, and then I go for the taunt the next turn. As he actually switches out into the Bronzong. Obviously fearing that I was going to do exactly what I said there, just spam rocks until he switched out, or until he died. I did think maybe he could start Shadow Balling me, but I just felt like getting the taunt off and then roxing up would have been the right play. So anyway, Bronzong comes in, I do catch that with a taunt, which is pretty nice, so I know this thing has to go for an offensive move. I know that it's likely to be a Psychic, but I have a Bronzong of my own here, and I feel like from his perspective, he's brought this in to try and get rocks up on me. He probably thinks I can't really touch him, and he's going to want to get rocks up. So with that in mind, knowing that if he goes for an Earthquake or a Psychic, my Bronzong beats both, I kind of feel like he might double here. I feel like he might predict me to go into the Bronzong and trying to go in something to capitalize on that. So I'm just going to make the really aggressive play into Blaziken. If I get that wrong and he Psychics me, I'm going to live it. I've got a little bit of HP investment and Bronzong isn't very strong. So I am going to be able to take it. But crucially, if he doubles into the Rotom to try and get off a defog on something like my Bronzong, which would be really annoying because it would give him a defog, me having to fear the Shadow Ball, I'd have to switch out. I didn't want to just lose that much momentum early in the game. I didn't want to lose my rocks that early in the game. Now I have Blaziken inside and I'm just going to go for the Flame Charge. If he wants to defog on my Flame Charge, then I'm at +1 speed and I can Fire EMZ the next turn and he's in a really tough spot. I didn't think he would go hard Rapidash with rocks up. He could have predicted the fire move, but Komodo was a decent mid-ground. It doesn't take as much rocks damage, and it still threatens me out if I went for the setup. I could stay in here and high jump kick, but I fear that he might be a little bit faster than me if he's Scarf, and I also fear that he might take the high jump kick because this is Tony and he builds really bulky. So I'm just going to make the very easy switch into Whimsicott. I don't think he'd ever Poison Jab on the read there, because if he does, Blaziken could just sweep his whole team, and I'm going to be able to just fire off a Moonblast here. I don't really worry about the Bronzong coming in. Rotom doesn't want to come in and take rocks, poison damage, and 2 Moonblasts, so... And here I can go back into Blaziken on the Bronzong if he did want to make that switch into Bronzong, which he did. This is where I say having U-turn would have been really nice on Whimsicott, because I could have U-turned this turn instead of hard switching. I wouldn't have had to make the hard prediction to bring Blaziken in, and if he'd doubled there, maybe I would have been caught out a little bit if he'd gone into Rapidash or something. But being confident that I could handle pretty much anything he went into on the Blaziken here, I do just make the aggressive switch before rocks go up. And this time I'm going to go for the Swords Dance, because he's already shown me that Komodo is his initial switching. And I really don't want to deal with that, and I feel like there's a good chance that he could just sack his Bronzong here, because if I go for a high jump kick into Bronzong or a Titanium Z, which I easily could do, Rapidash and Komodo both die. I could easily go for a Flare Blitz or a Fire Z, which would kill Rotom, so I really don't feel like he has any good switch in here, which made me feel like he might just try and sack Bronzong. He might just go for an Earthquake or Toxic or something, and if I could Swords Dance and Flame Charge up against him, then I could potentially just sweep his whole team from this point. So he goes out into Rapidash, and I'm like, alright, this Rapidash is almost certainly bulky. I know Tony. I'm just staying in and attacking, and I do outspeed him. A little bit of a case of knowing my opponent there. But yeah, it's Tony. I was like, he's going to have fat Rapidash. I'm going to outspeed him. And even if I got that wrong, he would have to be like banded or something to really do that much damage to me. And I just didn't feel like fully offensive Rapidash had a great matchup here. So regardless, I'm going to pivot out into Nidoqueen on this Swellow. As you can see, this doesn't help with Special Swellow. It doesn't help. We're sacking hearts off. But crucially, that means that we can get in Keldeo, and Keldeo can revenge kill this thing pretty readily as he goes out into his Bronzong. And we just go for the Surf. I didn't need to make any kind of crazy prediction there. Had he gone out into Rotom, I would have been able to two-shot it. We get nice chip off on Bronzong, which is just fine. And then I'm going to make that switch that I've been making all game. I'm going to play my Blaziken really aggressively. I'm going to take the Psychic, and I'm going to be put into Blaze range. And this is incredible. Now that I'm in Blaze range, I can just fire off a Fire Z, and I'm taking a Pokemon with me. Komodo looks as though it could be slower than me, and the next time he comes in, I'm just going to high jump kick him. So yeah, this is a free KO, and if he gives me the Rotom, which is really what I'm trying to force his hand with here, then Secret Sword's looking amazing in the end game. If he gives me the Komodo, then Surf's looking amazing in the end game, or Hydro Pump. So this is really just kind of forcing his hand and saying, okay, you're going to put me in Blaze, and I've got Fire Z, something's dying, and he does reveal to have the Protect here to try and catch the high jump kick or whatever, and I can just fire off an Inferno Overdrive, put him so low that I can KO him with a Flame Charge because I'm in Blaze range, so I'm just going to go for that Flame Charge here. And that basically makes me faster than his Komodo, which is really, really nice as well. He's in a very tough spot here where now, unless he is Scarf, I do outspeed him, and I don't think he is Scarf, and he would have to be a very fast Scarf to outspeed me anyway. So I'm just going to go for the high jump kick. We do land, we do KO that thing, and now, unless he's got Scarf Kartana, he can't really KO me. I'm just going to go for the Flare Blitz. Basically, at that point, if I died to Recoil, I was pretty content that I could win this game with my remaining pieces here, and if I did die, then okay, I've already taken several pieces with me, but Blaziken hangs on 2%. I'm just going to go for the Flame Charge here. If he's Scarf, he can kill me, big deal. I can then go into my Talonflame and Roost up on him, potentially, depending on what he locks into. So I'm just going to Flame Charge again as he goes out into Rotom, which is super nice for me because it means I don't have to Flare Blitz to kill the Rotom, so thank you very much for that, Tony. And at this point, yeah, plus whatever speed that I'm at now, it's game. It's very much game over at this point. So yeah, GG to my man Tony in this one. This was super fun, and this just shows you that, like, I remember Ben talking to me after the game. I'm sorry, my nose is running so cold in here. I've got massive fleece on and jumper and everything. Yeah, I remember Ben saying to me after the game, like, that was a really aggressive play going into Blaziken on the Bronzong Psychic after you'd already shown you were going hard Blaziken on him so many times. And I was like, yeah, but at the same time, like, just getting the Blaze with my Fire Z just forced a KO. And if you went for something like Toxic or something, trying to make a prediction or whatever, then I'm inside and I'm setting up on your Bronzong and I'm going crazy against your team like I did. So I really just felt like there are times with a wall breaker like this where you can force a really aggressive position and you can guarantee to take 1 or 2 mons with you. In this case, Blaziken got all 6 KOs. So shout out to Tony because this essentially put Blaziken in the number 2 spot with this game. But yeah, this thing's just an absolute beast, and kind of showing here how I always was able to make plays knowing that I could open up a game for Keldeo as well. Like, it wasn't all about I'm going to try and sweep you with Blaziken. It was like, how can Blaziken open up this game for Keldeo to win in the late game, or for my Calm Mind Bronzong to sweep you, which never even hit the field, I don't think. But, you know, that still was looking like it had a really nice end game towards the end. So, yeah, there's different ways that you can use this, not as a win con in and of itself, but as something that opens up the game for your other win cons. So, let's jump into the next team where we use a very different kind of speed control to support Blaziken. So here we are with the second Blaziken team, and this was also in the Surge tournament. This was the following game. So the game against Tony was the first knockout round of 60. This was a quarter-final game, excuse me. That green tea's repeating on me a little bit. But yeah, this was a game against Shay Quazza. Really good player, really good content creator as well. Go check out his channel, definitely. But the first set you can see here, Alolan Persian brought in specifically for this game as one of my trades. Basically, he has a Lanoon, and I refuse to ever lose to anyone that uses Lanoon, because that thing is the most brainless, skillless, obnoxious mon in Draft League, in Pokemon. I really like Zigzagoon and Lanoon, Zigzagoon and Little Cup way back when I used to play Little Cup and like Oras a little bit. I've just always hated that thing. Hated Lanoon. I just don't think it's interesting. I don't think it's fun. I really like Shay, don't get me wrong, but I refuse to lose to a man that loses Lanoon. So I picked this thing up because Chilamberry plus Foul Play means I never lose to Lanoon. I think E-Speed from an Adamant, Lanoon does about 50%. Persian is really, really fat. Foul Play pretty much always OHKOs unless he's not running much attack investment in his Lanoon, which if he's not running much attack investment, then he's not going to do that much damage to the rest of my team. So, yeah. Parting Shot, Taunt, Toxic is just good team support. For general, because Persian is pretty bad in my opinion, but it's a nice way of supporting the team here with these things, potentially being able to get things into set up with Parting Shot, and stopping other things from setting up with Taunt. I never intend to taunt the Lanoon particularly, but it's just on there for other things too. Next up we have Keldeo, good doggo, back again, Choice Scarf again, back-to-back weeks with Choice Scarf. It was just really good in these matchups. It was as simple as that. This might be able to take a +6 E-Speed from Jolly Lanoon. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it can. It's pretty naturally pretty bulky, so maybe it can. But yeah, standard Scarf Keldeo win con. With, again, Wall Breaking Blaziken to support this Keldeo. So this time I don't have a way of boosting my speed. And that's kind of weird because this player is a more offensive player than Tony. So this is the kind of game where usually I would say that Blaziken most people feel has bad matchup. This is the kind of game where if you kind of study Blaziken's competitive history without speed boost, like this is the kind of game where you would look at it and say like this is the kind of meta game that is really not suited to a very offensive player. This is the kind of game where usually you would feel like you would leave it on the bench. But I really felt like in this game I could do something with Blaziken with the right team support. So with Sword Stance, Flare Blitz, High Jump Kick, Knockoff, I'm hitting his whole team. He does have a Blacephalon, so I do need that knockoff coverage. Unfortunately, in this game I generally like to just run Stab, but that means that I am forfeiting the speed boost, but it's okay because, and you can see my EV spreads on Blaziken are nothing crazy. Like I'm not going wild with this. I mean, I wasn't going wild in Surge anyway. I was building fairly standard, but still. Fairly meta kind of team builds and stuff, but this thing can open up the game for Keldeo again, Choice Scarf Keldeo to win, but it has its own way of winning, which we'll get to in a little moment. And we also have here a Scope Lens Super Luck Honchkrow. He had an Necrozma, and I didn't want like an Acid Arm and Necrozma being able to beat me because I would kind of struggle to hit Acid Arm and Necrozma with most of this team. My special attackers at the end here aren't particularly strong. Maybe Hydro Pump, but it's going to die to a Psychic, and then it can recover off on something else. This thing's going to struggle to be Acid Armor, and this thing's going to struggle to be Acid Armor. So I felt like it could be like Acid Armor, Recover, Psychic, Signal Beam, something like that, and that could be a bit of a problem. So I'm just running a Speedy Scope Lens Night/Honchkrow Super Lurk just to make sure that I don't lose to that kind of a Necrozma set. Sucker Punch is really, really nice. Still got a decent crit chance between the Scope Lens and the Super Lurk. Brave Bird 2, powerful Stab, and then Foul Play for that Lanoon. So if the Lanoon tries to set up in front of me, maybe I don't know, let's say I get Burn or something like that, and he wants to set up in front of me, Foul Play is still going to do a lot. Now, Burn does interact with Foul Play and halve the damage, but he's still going to be like a +3 Lanoon attacking himself. It's still going to do like 50% or whatever. So, it's going to be in a pretty tough spot. And if I'm not burnt and he just tries setting up on me, I basically, if Lanoon comes out in front of this thing, I don't spam like Sucker Punch hoping to catch him or anything like that. I either click Brave Bird if I just straight out want to kill him, or I click Foul Play if I want to prevent him from setting up, depending on what health he's at and stuff like that. So I just thought it was a decent tech to have on the end there. And then this is a really crucial team support that you're seeing here at the bottom, Tailwind. I think Tailwind support, I've mentioned this a lot with Whimsicott and other builds where I've been like, oh man, I wish I had room for Tailwind. I don't run it very often. I don't run it very often at all on Whimsicott, but sometimes when you can get Prankster Tailwind on Whimsicott in the right matchup, it can be so good. And this team throughout Surge loved it because things like Nidoqueen, things like Honchkrow, they love having that Tailwind support because they're not naturally that fast. So this, if you're going to draft Blaziken, like I would 100% recommend taking something like Whimsicott with it, because now if I can get this thing under Tailwind with its stabs, like it's going to hit so hard, and potentially with a Sword Stance as well, like 2 more turns after that, that might be all I need to win the game in a late game situation. Knockoff to get rid of Lanoon's Berry, basically to make sure that it's in range of everything, and an Energy Ball plus Moonblast. list. Again, I felt like Knockoff was better than Taunt, just because I don't really care if Lanoon sets up because I have my Persian. What I would rather do is just make sure it's in range of Persian, so I'd rather just knock it off, because this is kind of set up bait for Lanoon. Like, Whimsicott doesn't look crazy good against Lanoon, so I'm well aware that he could easily set up on this. Next up, we have Life Orb Nidoqueen. Again, under Tailwind with just that 92 special attack investment, Life Orb Sheer Force. We're going to do a lot. We just have Dual Stabs. Sucker Punches here for the Blacephalon to help me wear that thing down, and then Stealth Rocks to get Rocks up. I can make judgment calls if I think he's going to be like a sub Blacephalon, on whether to let him sub or whether to Sucker Punch, or just straight up attack. So I can make judgment calls again, Spadef to help with that Blacephalon. All of this is okay team support for Blaziken, but the most crucial thing that I really want to take note of in this matchup is a Tailwind with Blaziken plus Keldeo, how that can kind of work out. These two things are really, really important. Other than that, it is really nice having a good flyer partner with Blaziken, because this thing does, whilst Moxie sweeps, you do kind of want to spam your Sucker Punch and your Dark Stab with Honchkrow. If you're running like a Super Lux Scope Lens set, or you potentially aren't looking to get Moxie sweeps, you're maybe looking to spam Brave Bird a little bit. I think in those situations, having something that beats Steel type so effectively and comes in on Steel type so effectively is really, really good. For example, you know, in the next meta, if I don't know what's around, so please don't spoil anything that's around. But if something like Melmetal's around that this thing would absolutely struggle with, having something like this that could come in on Melmetal and just go crazy against it would be really, really useful. So I feel like, you know, you maybe don't, I don't know what even Melmetal's move pool or anything, but let's say Melmetal comes in on Honchkrow and you're like, right, if I try and Sucker Punch, I can maybe KO it, but he could be like Thunder Wave plus Rocks, and he could just, or he could be Sub and then sub up on my Sucker Punch. You always have to be wary of those things with Honchkrow Sucker Punch shenanigans. So I really feel like having something that you can just, alright, I'll save Honchkrow for later and I'll bring in my Wall Breaker is really, really nice. I do think those two pair pretty nicely together. And of course, this thing can potentially beat the bulky Psychics, and it does have Pursuit to try and trap the bulky Psychics for Blaziken as well. So double Fighting Core does love having a good Dark type partnered with it, and that's exactly what we had on this team, so that's pretty nice. Yeah, anyway, let's jump into the actual game and see how it all performed. So here we are in the game, guys, against Shay, and you can see here me talking about him having a very offensive team. He's potentially got Sash, Spikes, lead. He's potentially got a very bulky Rocks lead and Piloswine. He's got a very bulky but decently offensive pivot with his coverage. And then he's got like setup and setup. This actually isn't as offensive team as I've seen Shay use before. Yeah, usually would have things like Kartana, things like that I associate with him a little bit more. But one thing that I forgot to mention as well is that I knew he had Silvally in this game, and I felt like Silvally either Psychic, Fairy, or Ghost would come, because I do have double fighting types. And I felt like, well, Silvally Fairy I can exploit with Nidoqueen and get my Rocks up and Sludge Wave and stuff with Nidoqueen, so that's pretty nice. Silvally Psychic, though, would maybe be a little bit annoying, because I would have to go into Persian, which isn't great, because I really want to preserve that thing for Lanoon. We are doubling up on the Dark types here, of course, so that's another thing that I really felt like was nice with Honchkrow in this game. If you brought Dark, or if you brought Silvally Ghost, sorry, which I thought was probably the more likely, although he does have double Ghost, I thought Ghost had a arguably better matchup than Psychic against me, with having a Bronzong and stuff like that as well. I think I still have my Bronzong at this point. But if he brought Silvally Psychic or Ghost, I felt like Honchkrow could come in and wall break on them really, really nicely. So that was another thing that I thought was pretty nice. So anyway, yeah, here we're going to lead it off with the Whimsicott, because I felt like it basically applied some offensive pressure against everything on his team. And specifically the Piloswine, I didn't want him getting Rocks up for free because my team doesn't love Rocks. So I was like, I don't want to let that lead off for free. I can pivot into Keldeo here and take any one hit from Blacephalon. Scarf Keldeo is able to revenge kill Blacephalon, of course, which is really, really nice as well. Another reason that I liked Scarf Keldeo in this game, so that I didn't lose to Flame Charge Blacephalon or Scarf Blacephalon, as he makes the pivot out into Silvally Grass. And I was like, okay, I didn't expect that. Like, I thought this would be like Ghost or Psychic. So, pretty nice bring, actually, though, being able to take on Keldeo. Very easily exploited by Blaziken, potentially, though, which is something to note. And maybe even Nidoqueen, too. So, yeah, definitely didn't expect Silvally Grass. But I'm still just going to make the pivot into Honchkrow. The reason being, if he does what he does, which is Parting Shot out, I have the Scope Lens, Super Look, and Night Slash, for example, with the high critical hit ratio. So I can basically just crit through these drops, and he's probably going to expect me to be Moxie, because at this point in the season, I've only shown Moxie. The games that I've brought Super Look, it never hit the field. And I can just fire off this Brave Bird into Piloswine and punish him for getting his Rocks up, as we get a crit there, and then follow up with another one. He's now going to see that I'm not Moxie, and it's put him in a little bit of a difficult spot, because I've really just been able to open up the game by getting rid of that Pillar Swine. Like, he doesn't have his really, really fat wall anymore. So this thing's Brave Birds look pretty nice now. This thing's Night Slashes look pretty nice now. And I'm just going to keep prioritizing damage. I'm just going to say, okay, let me just keep breaking, because at the end of the day, like, this thing doesn't really take rocks that well when it comes back in. And I don't know what on his team it outspeeds. Like, it might not outspeed anything. All of these things have the potential to outspeed me. I don't know if I speed crept this or not. I can't remember. You guys would have seen the team builder. But so I'm just going to stay in and just Night Slash, because I'm like, this is the one thing that I can probably get damage off on with my Hunch Crow. So I'm just going to stay in and get that damage. Why not? So we do get some nice chip off on that. If it is Assault Vest, it could be a potential annoyance to water spam Keldeo in the end game. But at this point, like, fighting spam Keldeo is looking really nice if I can remove the Blacephalon. All I've got to do is either take the fighting immunity in Blacephalon, because I can potentially beat a Selgor with Secret Sword anyway if I can get rocks and stuff. Or I've got to take the water resist in Silvally, and then I can win with Hydro Pump or Surf. So seeing the Silvally come out is no bad thing to me, as I'm just going to go for my Stealth Rocks here, I believe. Oh no, just go for the Sludge Wave, just trying to get damage, because I want that Silvally gone to open up my Water Stab on Keldeo. And here I'm just going to Earth Power and just attack the Blacephalon. So that is a huge threat gone now, and suddenly Secret Sword endgame looks really good. I might struggle to get chip off on a Selgor, but if I can get chip off on a Selgor, then Secret Sword looks really good. But also Blaziken now looks amazing. Blaziken looks insane, because I can click High Jump Kick with no repercussions. No repercussions at all, and if I can get it in under a Tailwind, I can beat his whole team. I won't have enough turns, but if I can position myself correctly, like, I just guarantee a KO for every turn I'm in under Tailwind with Blaziken at this point. So this is where I was talking about having that right kind of team support for Blaziken. I just stay in here. And now I'm going to pivot out into Whimsicott as he goes for the Hidden Power. What do you reckon? Hidden Power Water? Probably Hidden Power Water, I guess. I don't know. You guys are good in mind. Hidden Power Ground, maybe? Don't know. Anyway, I'm going to fire off a Moonblast and get more chip off on this thing, which is so nice for my endgame with Keldeo. He goes out into the Lanoon here, but as I said, I don't really fear Lanoon. I'm just going to knock off its berry, as he actually reveals to be Mental Herb. So, again, another good reason to run Knock Off instead of Taunt. And here I can just sack the Nidoqueen, because that Tailwind support is still really, really useful and going to be really huge in this game. I can go out into Persian. I've built this thing to be able to handle his threat. And you can see here how I've built this team with Blaziken in mind under Tailwind. But I've been able to build a bulky core around it to handle the offense that maybe Blaziken would struggle against. I can just sack off my Persian here. I can go into Whimsicott, and there's only 3 things remaining. I can click Tailwind, as he should stay in and kill me. There's no reason for him to switch into anything else and take extra chip on those. And now I only have 3 turns of Tailwind left, but I'm a Blaziken under Tailwind. He goes for the Water Shuriken, which I figured he would probably have. He would need to have had 5 hits to KO me. I can go for a Flare Blitz there and pick up 1 KO. I think if he'd got 2 more hits, depending on rolls, he might have been able to KO me with the Flare Blitz recoil, but still. Now I can fire off my Fiery Z and just guarantee a KO there and not have to kill myself to my recoil. And out comes this thing that I can Flare Blitz too. So, just showing you there that even though Tailwind is really very short, if you really think about how you're positioning throughout the game and you really look at your opponent's team and you're like, okay, what stops Blaziken from going in? The Blacephalon would have been really annoying, because I would have had to click Knockoff, and then if he'd pivoted around on the Knockoff, he could have stalled out my Tailwind. If he'd gone into things and then pivoted into Blacephalon on my Flare Blitz or my High Jump Kick, he could have stalled me out that way. So basically just removing the specific things that I needed to allow Tailwind to be the most effective and Blaziken to be the most effective just really shone through here. And I was able to really punish him with Blaziken's Dual Stab again. In fact, did I even click... no, I only clicked Fire Stab. I didn't even click Fighting Stab. So, and I didn't even need my Sword Stand. So it just shows you, like... And, of course, Keldeo just chilling in the back still. So it shows you that, you know, with Tailwind support, Blaziken can be so good even against offense. Because the ones that we beat there in the end were Selgor, Electros, and Silvally, which all have to some extent a place. You know, you've got 2 bulky pivots and a very, very speedy mon. These all have a place on offensive builds, but Blaziken was able to just blow through them so easily with that Tailwind support. And I think that's the thing, when people think about Blaziken, they're like, oh, it loses to offense because it gets outsped consistently. It does, but if you run Sticky Webs or if you run Tailwind, then you don't get outsped consistently. If you run Flame Charge, then you don't get outsped consistently. There are ways to manually boost your own speed outside of Choice Scarf that if you really think about your team composition, you can still go crazy in these games with these mons. So yeah, I love Blaziken. I think it's incredible, and I think those 2 games were a good evidence of why. And they were big games against top players. As I say, they were both playoff games, both in a very good tournament against very good players, and this is relatively low tier compared to what a lot of people are drafting at this point. I mean, Shay actually relatively stuck to low tier stuff too, but yeah. Pretty low tier battle from us, actually. But yeah, still super, super fun and proving how good Blaziken is. Let's move on to the next Pokemon. Next up, in first place, we have the number 1 mon, the best mon, according to my stats that I have used in Gen 7 Pokemon Draft Leagues. And I thought things with Blaziken were pretty nutty. Like, those KOs per game, pretty nutty. We're getting really nutty now. First place is, and if you watched my Showdown Lives on the channel, you might have predicted this, but I've never used this in a Draft League on the channel. Unlike almost every other mon, I think every other mon on this list I've used on the channel at some point in a Draft League. I've never used this mon in a Draft League on the channel. We have Kenji the Kartana. This thing was a thing that took me all the way up the OU ladder when I first tried laddering and when we got up to like top 300. This thing took me there. This thing is so damn good. And this is why this is not my top 10 mons, as in my favorite mons, because I'm going to be brutal. I don't like Kartana. Like, when it was first released, I thought its design was stupid. I thought its stats were stupid. I thought its 4x weakness to fire was stupid. I thought I would never draft it. If you told me, early me, in my first 3 to 4 leagues, I was going to draft Kartana one day, I would have laughed at you and told you, no way in hell. I have since learnt my lesson. 37 KOs, only 1 feint. In 36 differential, in 17 games. 17 games, 37 KOs. That's 20 more KOs. That's more than double... 30... Yeah, that's more than double the amount of KOs. Yeah, because it's 2.1 average KOs per game. I'm good at maths. You can tell that. I was an English student. Let me off. Yeah, more than 2.1... more than 2 KOs per game. Like, this thing's just crazy. Crazy. Only fainted once, and it was in the final, which I lost. Before that point, had never fainted, and I was like, man, if I lose the final and Kartana faints, and I take that thing to the end of Gen 7, I could have had 0 feints in a championship with it, and that's exactly what I didn't do. I got the 1 feint. So sad. So sad. Regardless, I had this thing in SES, and briefly in a speed tour with Ben. Me and Ben, this is the first time I used Kartana. Me and Ben one night, Ben was staying at mine. We were like, let's enter this speed tour. There were some really good players in it. Scoot Zamcro was in it. Some decent players. And we were like, let's just have fun. And we drafted a team with Bulu Kartana. Bulu Kartana Mega Camerupt Trick Room. Because we were like, we want to use Kartana, we want to use Mega Camerupt Nature Power in terrain for Energy Ball. And we want to use Banded Leaf Blades in grassy terrain with Kartana. So we just drafted this bizarre team, and we got to what we thought was the penultimate round when we were supposed to take Bishop to finish off the team, because this was our steel type, and it's, you know, we wanted a secondary steel type as well. And instead of taking Bishop, we drafted Spupa. And then we found out that that was the final round of drafting, and we weren't allowed any more mons, and we were stuck with the Spupa, and we had like 15 points or something left in our budget. And we were like, oh no. We had like Bulu, Lucha, Trick Room, Camerupt, Kartana. It was so weird. And we won it. We won the speed tour. Kartana won. It came to like every game and won in like every game. We brought Banded into Rain. We brought Scarf. We brought... yeah, we just... I had so much fun that I had to then draft. I had to then try it on the ladder. I tried it on the ladder and I was like, alright, I have to now draft this thing in a proper league. So I drafted it in SES and it went crazy. It went absolutely crazy. So... this thing technically did win me my first championship with Ben. It was only a speed tour and it was the 2 of us playing together. Although I think that was pretty advantage for the other players as we were just yelling at each other most of the time. Most people were like, oh, you had ghosting? No, we were yelling at each other. We were disagreeing. We could not get on at all. But that's very much mine and Ben's dynamic. So yeah, Kenji is broken Pokemon. I'm done gushing about it now. Look at those stats. Insane stats. Absolutely insane stats. 181 attack, 131 defense. One thing that people do not appreciate with this mon is that it is really weak to priority in terms of vacuum wave, sure. And of course, if you can catch it with hidden power fire, it's going to die, sure. But it resists a Cell Rock and it has a very good base defense. It will take a Mach Punch a lot of the time because it does have a good base defense. You might have to invest a little bit. You might have to tweak that because it doesn't have great HP. But it will take a Mach Punch from certain mons a lot of the time. It will take Fake Out. Easily, it resists that. It will take Quick Attack. It resists that. It will take a Sucker Punch from most mons pretty respectably with that base defense. So whilst, yes, it is paper thin, when you think of like Choice Scarf Sweepers, when you think of 109 Speed Tier Sweepers, often being weak to priority can be a little bit of a problem. Something like Lycan Rock Day is something I tried using that's incredibly frail, that is weak to Mach Punch, Vacuum Wave, and isn't bulky on either side, that doesn't resist Sucker Punch. You know, those are the things that can make it a little bit more difficult to deal with. Sharpedo dies to a quick attack, as I found out to my dismay in the UBL semi-finals. So this isn't that kind of mon. This can't just be picked off with those bits of priority. It looks like a complete glass cannon, completely frail, but it isn't exactly that. It can take a physical hit. And one thing that people don't realize when you play Kartana is you can be a little bit stupid with it. You can bring Kartana hard in on a Bulu and be like, thank you for the grassy terrain. I'm going to tank that Horn Leech because I 4 times resist it, and now I'm going to click Smart Strike, and you're going to have to find a switch in. And there are so few switch ins in the metagames of this thing. Like flying types, if I'm going to knock you off, if I'm going to just catch your item and get rid of your leftovers early, and rocks are up, flying type is a relatively easy defensive typing to pressure with hazards and stuff like that, because they take 25% from rocks. So there are pretty easy ways with team support to pressure mons, and I'll get into that a little bit when we get into team builder section, that check this thing. Grass types that, or bulky waters that would resist steel don't resist your grass. Bulky grasses that resist your grass don't necessarily resist your steel. So there are ways that you can break through these things. Bulky steels, like physically defensive steels that resist your dual stab, don't like Sacred Sword. So it does have the right coverage. And this is the perfect example. This is literally the perfect example of when people look at a Pokemon and they don't understand why people say it just needs one coverage move to be better, or if it lost one coverage move it would be worse. To give it a comparable example, I would say Mega Diancie. If Mega Diancie didn't have Earth Power, so it was relying on just Rock plus Fairy, it would be so much worse because it would just not be able to hit steels, not be able to touch them at all. And this is another really good example of that, where having that fighting coverage to be able to hit those steels is all it really needed. And knockoff for the flying types is ludicrously good as well. But even without that, you could have busted through the flying types with your steel spam. You know, things like Zapdos, maybe not. But again, you can pressure Zapdos with the right team support, or you can just draft it with this, and then you don't have to worry about it. So there are just so many things this thing can do. I never ran it Z. I didn't Z captain it ever, so I never ran it Z. Normalium Z is a big set on the ladder. But we're going to get into talking about the sets. I pretty much just ran it Scarf all the time. Pretty much just Band or Scarf. Most weeks it's just, do I want a choice band or a choice scarf, and that's it really. Expert belt here and there. I apologise for getting to put the items on, but let's get into team builder and talk about exactly what I did bring to a couple of games. So here we are with the team builder section for Kartana, and this first Kartana team is going to be a Sticky Webs Kartana team. And I really wanted to touch on this one because I spoke a lot in the Blaziken section about team support, about speed control, about how you can help Blaziken out with speed control stuff, but you can still do that with Kartana. And also, I wanted to talk about this one because this has a matchup where sometimes you might look at Kartana and go, I don't know how much it can really do in this game, how many KOs it can realistically pick up. And part of that is because my opponent had a Magneton. So Choice Scarf Magneton can easily outspeed Kartana and trap you, unless you're like a Choice Scarf Kartana and you only ever click Secret Sword, or Sacred Sword, sorry. You can potentially just get trapped by that thing. And so you might look at it and you might say, alright, well, if I'm going to bring Kartana, I either only can Scarf myself into a fighting move, or I have to bring like Shed Shell, which is exactly what I did in this game. And I just wanted to talk about how that can still be really, really good. So I've already spoken extensively about Mega Medicham, but basically Mega Medicham does form a really good partner with Kartana because it is able to break through those steals and stuff for Kartana that otherwise Kartana doesn't struggle with, but doesn't like quite as much. You can also make some really easy doubles because Kartana just absolutely forces switches because of the Beast Boost ability. Basically, people are always wary to sack something to this mon because, you know, you might have, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a pure steel type that's that common in Draft League format. You might have like a Jirachi in the back, right? It's not a pure steel type, it's just an example. And you know that your Jirachi can take a knockoff from a neutral Kartana, but you can't necessarily take one once the Kartana's at +1. And you might be in with your, I don't know, you might be in with your Keldeo, say, and you're like, alright, well, he's going to Leaf Blade me. He's never going to knock off my Keldeo. He's going to Leaf Blade me, so I'm going to make that pivot into Jirachi. Sometimes you can kind of, Jirachi maybe isn't the best example, maybe something like Bronzong would be better. So you make that pivot into Bronzong, and you can quite often kind of safely predict that, and you can then just double into your Medicham on the Bronzong, and now I'm clicking a high jump kick, which maybe your team cannot handle at all, especially if your Psychic type is a Bronzong. So it's that kind of way that these two can partner together, not just in terms of this breaking the steals for this, but also in terms of this forcing switches because of its ability, which allows aggressive doubles into this. I spoke a lot about how you want to play how I like to play Mega Medicham aggressively with the doubles, and this is a really good example. I also spoke a little bit in the previous analysis of Kartana about it being resistant to a lot of common physical priority, and this is another really good example with the bullet punch here, and we will see that a little bit in the game, as I believe there's a Mega Lopunny and a Entei in this game. So two things that commonly might have, fake out, quick attack, and extreme speed respectively. But all of those things are resisted by Kartana, and it does have decent physical defense. So I'm going to be able to illustrate a little bit in this game as well what I was talking about it having that nice physical bulk to handle common forms of physical priority, and a nice typing for it too. Next up we have Tyranitar Choice Banded, just wall breaking Tyranitar designed to go crazy in this game. I'm running a Nerve this week because I obviously just didn't want any resist berries. I felt like that was more important than having the Spadef boost. I am a little bit bulky, but I'm not crazy bulky. I'm much more just outright offensive and a little bit of speed. Decent coverage on Tyranitar, so Tyranitar does Tyranitar things. Then we have, as I say, the Kartana with the Shed Shell, so I can come in, I can pick up a KO, and I don't just straight up get revenge killed by Scarf, Hidden Power, Fire, Magneton. And in fact, Scarf, Hidden Power, Fire, Magneton has a very good check here and a Flash Fire Heatran. If I just go into that and it's scarfed into that, then I'm in a really free spot to either click a Magma Storm on something coming in, make a prediction, potentially with my Gracium Z Solar Beam, which I think was... I can't remember what the bulky water was off the top of my head, but there was something I could catch with that. Or again, I can double into the Medicham because, alright, I know you're scarfed into Hidden Power Fire, which can't touch me. Having a Flash Fire Mon with Kartana is really nice for that reason, because those Scarfers that want to lock into Hidden Power Fire to revenge kill you, now they can't. And if they do, having something that you can make the doubles into to wall break is really, really nice too. So again, real nice synergy between these three here, and even this one to some extent, because if I want to double, if I don't want to go into Heatran on the Hidden Power Fire, I could just as easily go into Tyranitar and start wall breaking with that thing. So I have options, or if Heatran goes down, I still have a very, very bulky fire resist here. So a lot of good options. Stealth Rocks just to take pressure off Tyranitar, so Tyranitar can be more offensive in this game. You can see this thing is still pretty offensive though, with the modest max special attack and all the coverage we have going on. I maybe didn't bring Sand because I was bringing Solar Beam and I didn't want to new to the power of Solar Beam. That's probably why, to be honest. That's probably why I opted for no Sand. Anyway, next up we have Morris, the Quagsire. Special Quagsire, just a Spadef wall. I'm sure he must have had something... Oh no, Water Absorb, so it wasn't unaware to take on something like the setup threat. Presumably had a Water type that I was particularly worried about from the fact that I'm running Z Solar Beam and Water Absorb Quagsire. But yeah, just bulky, and also very good at helping out with a Magneton that almost certainly is running Hidden Power Fire. Because if it's running Hidden Power Fire, it cannot touch Quagsire. This is something that I've drafted Magnezone myself and could get quite frustrated with Magnezone, is that it doesn't have the coverage. It relies on Hidden Power coverage. So yeah, this is a pretty nice way of handling that. And then next up we have Araquanid, and this is something that I really want to talk about in this Kartana team. I spoke about it with Blaziken having Tailwind support. Well, in this case we're giving Kartana Sticky Web support, and that will be relevant. That will come to kind of be important in this matchup, because we aren't able to run a Choice Scarf on this thing in this game, just because I need the Shed Shell if I'm going to stick around for more than one KO. Then I don't have the best way of potentially beating Scarfers that can outspeed me, but with the Sticky Web grounded Scarfers in particular, I can kind of handle. So that can be really nice too. Liquidation Lunge and Protect just for longevity with the leftovers there. So let's get into this game and look at how all this panned out. So here we are in the game, guys, and you can see here it was a Rotom Wash. I thought it was a Rotom Wash, but I was like, I thought someone else had a Rotom Wash. Maybe he got traded or something. But yeah, we're up against Amit, and he does have a Rotom Wash, so that's obviously why I felt like I wanted Water Absorb so that I could actually switch in on this thing, because otherwise it does kind of go crazy against my team. Nothing really takes on its dual stabs. And you can see the Magneton has come, so he is going to be able to trap my Kartana potentially, or thinks he can trap my Kartana. And in general, this is a game where, you could easily see Scarf Magneton / Scarf Entei being able to revenge kill Kartana. There's a ton of priority here. Blaziken and Entei, in Mega Lopunny and Entei, very common priority. But again, we resist it, both of them with Kartana. And he potentially has some really interesting wall breakers here in Alolan Executor and Landorus, both though fairly easily killed or revenge killed by Kartana. And that's where Kartana is really, really good, is that Kartana isn't a mon that you have to leave in the back until the final turn. It's a mon that you can bring in repeatedly throughout the battle to wall break, and that's really, really nice. So anyway, we lead off with Medicham here, and I believe we just go straight for the high jump kick. I don't think I even make a prediction. I'll go straight for the... Oh my god. I'm good. I'm just good. it's just good. I guess it looks like a fake out lead with Mega Medicham, and so expecting him to want to go into Landorus on the fake out to get the Intimidate off as early as possible. I just go raw for the Ice Punch as he reveals to be the Rocky Helmet. I spoke about with the Mega Medicham section not liking people that just do fake out leads. This is why, because there if I clicked fake out I would have just taken all that chip for not that much chip on a Landorus, but because I just played aggressively, I played with some balls, like it works out way better that way. So I just double Ice Punch here. I don't see the point in risking missing a move or whatever, as he goes out into the Entei, which I'm not really afraid of between Heatran and Tyranitar. He does manage to burn me, but I'm still banded, so I'm still going to be decently strong as I just fire off the Stone Edge here, and you can see we would two-shot a regular Lopunny. It's not the bulkiest mon, but that's still a nice chip, right? Essentially, I don't need to worry too much. As he then goes to the fake out, and this is a really good case in point there. Like, I feel like, not to like criticize my opponent or anything, but I feel like a return, if you're going to go for normal moves with a Tyranitar on the field, I feel like return is like no drawback. Like, just fake out wasn't going to do much to a Tyranitar anyway. Like, just this is why I just don't like running fake out. I prefer to just attack. So anyway, we're able to go out and get our webs up, which is going to force this thing to defog, which is nice because it means that I don't have to deal with it. And again, I've spoken about this a ton with Mega Medicham, but I get that boy in on the defog. I'm taking another Pokemon, and this is the thing with Mega Medicham when you use it like this. It's like, okay, either I keep my webs up, and if I keep my webs up, by the way, Kartana goes crazy. I know this thing isn't Scarf, and it's your one Sticky Web immunity. Kartana goes crazy if I keep the Sticky Webs up, or you let me get Mega Medicham in for free, so yeah, it's kind of no drawback. I'm going to go back out into Araquanid here as my opponent does make the more aggressive play this time, and just go straight for the return. And I'm going to be able to set my webs again, because by forcing that situation with Medicham, I've taken his defogger, and now look at Kartana. Sacred Sword is going to kill that. Leaf Blade is going to kill that. I need to get some chip off on Entei, so I'm going to want to get Rocks up as soon as possible. But otherwise, Knockoff will be able to beat that, or Psycho Cut. I can't remember which one we were running on the Team Builder. Mega Lopunny is going to die to like a Leaf Blade or a Smart Strike, and Executor is going to die to a Smart Strike once I start boosting up. So you can see here that all I really have to do to win this game with Kartana, now that webs are down on the field, is just get chip on Entei. And potentially even Entei, if I can get boosted up before it comes in, I can beat that anyway. So I'm going to go out into Heatran here, and I'm just going to go for my Stealth Rocks as my opponent goes for the Earthquake under Trick Room, which is pretty scary. Yeah, it's pretty nice, but you can see basically, I forgot to kind of talk about this interaction, but I go for the Protect here. Again, running Protect with things that are going to be forced to be choice because you've got Kartana is really, really nice. So he goes for the Hidden Power Fire, I'm almost certain, because you're going to be running Hidden Power Fire for Katana, or you're going to be running Hidden Power Grass for Quagsire, worst case scenario. In either of those situations, I do have a Gligar as well, so it could be Hidden Power Ice. In all three of those situations, Heatran is free, and now I'm going to get my Rocks up. And that's what I've been saying, that's what I need to win this game. At this point, Katana wins, so all I have to do here is stall out Trick Room. That's literally all I have to do. Get Flash Cannon, chip off on this thing. This was another thing that could take a hit from Kartana at full, so it's nice just to get that chip off. Go out into a Araquanid, click Protect to stall out a Trick Room turn, as he does reveal the Z, but it does nothing because this is a goddamn Araquanid. The Draco Meteor is able to pick me off though, but now Trick Room is over. I'm able to go out into Medicham and click Ice Punch. He doesn't have a switch in, particularly to this, and that means that Kartana in this endgame, as this thing comes out to revenge kill me, Kartana is looking insanely good in this endgame. If this is Scarf, it's a potential speed tie with my Mega Medicham, so I'm happy just to switch out Mega Medicham. It doesn't really matter. I may as well go into Tyranitar. He could be Scarf, I don't know, and just go for the Crunch. Even Banded Adamant Crunch does nearly 50%. Insane. Tyranitar is insane. And I'm just basically going to sack Tyranitar, because the sooner Tyranitar goes down, the sooner Kartana comes in, and the game is just over at that point. He goes for the Fake Out. Again, personally, I would probably just attacked, but I guess it means he doesn't have to risk missing, so I can understand that actually. Here I just go into Katana, and this is GG. This is game over. There's nothing you do with webs down. Scarf Entei can't outspeed me. With Rocks up, it's taking so much chip. I'm at +1 attack. Even if he hadn't taken so much chip, I was going to decimate this thing with Knockoff anyway. He does reveal to be the choice Scarf there, so it was good that we scouted and played around the way that we did. Alone and Executor is going to come out, and this thing's not going to take the Knockoff either, or the Smart Strike. In fact, it doesn't really matter at this point. I'm at +2 attack. So yeah, Kartana goes crazy under Sticky Webs in this game, and this kind of shows you that you can play Kartana aggressively, you can bring it in throughout the game, and I could have done that because I was running the Shed Shell, but actually by just being patient and just getting up my Sticky Webs and Rocks, I knew that from turn, probably about 10 turns ago, from about turn 16, I knew this game was over. I knew that Kartana had won, and there was, save for letting him get Trick Room up with the Executor in a difficult position, as long as I never allowed the Executor to Trick Room for free and potentially sweep me that way, I knew that this game was over. I knew that his priority was resisted by my Steel typing and my physical defense. I knew that his Scarfers were grounded and slowed down. I knew that my coverage hit everything on his team, and even through resist berries, I was going to be destroying things, because I wouldn't even have to click the super effective button on a lot of them, you know, knock off on Entei, Smart Strike on Lopunny, and Alone Executor and whatever else. So yeah, it's just one of those situations where you can really abuse that team support with sticky webs, because you know you're going to outrun Scarfers with Kartana unless they're very fast Scarfers with sticky webs, and you can still change up moves, which you couldn't do if you would choice Scarf. So yeah, just a really nice way of demonstrating Kartana and webs and how scary it can be. I think when we think of webs mons, we instantly think, people talk about great sticky web abusers being like Nidoking, being Mega Heracross, Blaziken. Because those mons are naturally slow, we think that, wow, when they get into sticky webs, they love it. But that doesn't mean that naturally fast mons don't love sticky webs too. They do, because they fear Scarfers, and that speed control against Scarfers is really, really clutch. I tend to, if I'm playing against sticky webs, bring like a Choice Scarf flying type for my speed control, so that my speed control isn't lost because of the sticky webs if I don't think I can defog. There's different ways to play around it, but yeah, I think that people underestimate how much a fast mon like Kartana still loves sticky web support to stop Scarfers revenge killing it. Anyway, I've done rambling on about this now. Let's look at the next team builder with Kartana. So here we are with the second team builder for Kartana, and this team is a little bit different, because on this team, Kartana was designed to be the wall breaker rather than the kind of under sticky webs win con. This was supposed to be the win con here in Barney the Tyranitar, being able to Dragon Dance up and beat through my opponent's team. I think I had a very full Bullet Punch sets, Bullet Punch from my opponent, so that I could take that and then just run through him with Stone Edge, Crunch plus Earthquake. Edgequake coverage, of course, is famously good in draft format, and Crunch is just nice stab as well, so just a very kind of bog standard Dragon Dancing Tyranitar with a Resist Berry for priority here. Next up we have Mega Medicham. Again, just very standard sub BP, and then dual stab, max speed, max attack, jolly. Yeah, I've already spoke to death about how well these three pair together. I really feel like there's only so much more I can say about them, but yeah, they just pair so nicely. Then we have a Heatran here with Toxic Sub Torment. I stole this set 100% off Gator in the WBE. Really fun set, just obnoxious and hard to play around. Obviously hard walled by Steel types, but who brings a Steel type in on a Heatran? Really obnoxious, very physically defensive and speedy. Yeah, that set is cancer, isn't it? Then we have a choice banned Kartana. I would have loved to have run Adamant, but I felt like I needed the speed in this matchup. So we're able to just go choice band. And the reason I wanted to show off this set is because this is a great illustration of Kartana beating mons that it shouldn't have any matchup against. So in this game, my opponent has a Charizard X, which is a 4x Grass Resist and a 2x Smart Strike Resist, Steel Resist. It also isn't weak to Knockoff because it doesn't have an item, and it isn't weak to Sacred Sword just because of its natural bulk and the fact that it's a not stab, relatively weak, like low base power move. 90 is not super, I mean it's not super weak, but it's not super strong either. So and 65, obviously, without the item to knock off, isn't very high base power. So, in theory, Mega Charizard X, really good check to this. My opponent also had a Gyarados, which can Intimidate, can Flamethrower / Fire Blast me, can easily take a Leaf Blade after I've been intimidated down, potentially resist Smart Strike, again, resist Sacred Sword, and doesn't worry too much about knockoff, especially if it's Z, but it's probably going to be leftovers if it's like an Intimidate set. But in theory, is a decent Kartana check. People have kind of used meme Gyarados on the ladder a lot to try and take on Kartana with fire coverage. And my opponent also had a Scyther, which again, in theory, 4x resist Leaf Blade, is bulky enough with its Eviolite to eat a Smart Strike, doesn't love getting knocked off, but does eat a Sacred Sword too, and bear in mind we're choice banded, so we are going to be choice locked in. So this is a game where you might look at it and you might say, okay, well your opponent has two 4x Grass Resists, he has two 2x Steel Resists. He has one thing that isn't weak to knockoff at all, and another thing that isn't, or two things that aren't weak to Sacred Sword at all. So how are you going to lock into anything in this game to have any impact? And this is a game where I'm going to show like playing Kartana a lot more aggressively than the last game, rather than keeping it in the back. We're going to put Kartana in the field as much as possible this game. Then we have an Unaware Leftover Quagsire, just in case there is like a Dragon Dance Gyarados, we can help take that on Toxic, Protect, stall it down. Also helps with Charizard X with the Earthquake on there too, of course. Predominantly for the Charizard X, but it will help with Gyarados a little bit too. Then we have Tornadus, Hurricane, Assault Vest, can just pivot in, fire off hits, and U-turn out, essentially. Again, I've spoke extensively about knockoff plus U-turn support being really, really good, and it's no different here. Being able to come in on potential special threats, being able to knock off something like the Scissor, or just Hurricane, a Scyther, or just Hurricane the Scyther, being able to U-turn out and keep momentum up and get Kartana back in, could be really, really huge. So, yeah, we're really going to look to break through my opponent's team. But if you look here, we have no Stealth Rock on this team. So we're going up against the team Mega Charizard X. We're not bringing Stealth Rocks, and yet we're still bringing Kartana. So hopefully I can kind of illustrate why in this game. Let's jump into the replay and have a look at how it worked out. So here we are in the replay, guys, and you can see my opponent's team. It's pretty scary, and again, doesn't look very Kartana-weak at all. Outside of Choice Scarf, Kartana, Alakazam, Revenge Kiss. This is regular Alakazam, I believe. Revenge Kiss it pretty well. Mega Charizard deals with it. Scyther deals with it. Gyarados kind of deals with it. There's only really the Sandslash that looks that abusable in this game in terms of I can come in hard on Sandslash, but I can still get knocked off, which would be annoying. So I definitely can't come in hard on the Hitmonchan, and I can't really come in hard on anything else. So you might look at this and think, how do you even get Kartana in the field in this game? Well, we're going to kind of run through that a little bit. So we're going to lead off and just U-turn out with Skywards, expecting his Hitmonchan to switch. He doesn't. He just goes for the Ice Punch, and I'm going to bring in Mega Medicham. I don't need health on Mega Medicham in this game, but straight away, Mega Medicham is going to be able to pressure one of the Kartana checks because he has to switch something in on Mega Medicham. He's brought a lot of Kartana checks, so he's likely going to use one of them and think that it's more expendable because he has the others, and would have been really nice to have got that damage off there on Scyther. Unfortunately, we don't, but we can abuse our regenerative pivot here and just go for the U-turn again, not thinking he'll stay with the Scyther, and now we get Kartana in. So you see that regen pivot working so nicely to get Kartana on the field. I can just click off knockoff here, and I was hoping to get rid of either the Eviolite on Scyther or the leftovers on Gyarados, as he actually reveals to be Z Gyarados. So I'm like, okay, that's pretty nice. I've still got a decent amount of chip off on him, and I'm slowly wearing down his Intimidate, and that could be really, really huge for Kartana as the game progresses. I'm going to pivot out into Morris the Quagsire as he reveals to be Flamethrower, is exactly what I was anticipating. And now I'm going to double into Kartana as he reveals the HP Grass, just scouting for that. And this play, fire! I'm not going to lie, I'm going to blow my own trumpet here, toot my own horn. Fire, because I saw that he was Special Gyarados, I saw that he flamethrowed me, I was like, okay, well this gets hard walled by Quagsire, so he potentially will have the HP Grass. If I double into Kartana, he now can't intimidate me because his Gyarados is already on the field, and my Leaf Blade will kill his Gyarados from this great range, so I'm going to force his switch again. So you can see there, just by separating those hidden power coverages, separating the team's coverage, pivoting around, you can use Kartana really well as a 4x grass resist there, even though it's a special attacker, not a very strong one. We're able to get in for just 10%, and I can just Leaf Blade here for damage. Okay, I only get 16% on the Scyther, I didn't click the knockoff, I could have been more ballsy, that would have been more fire, but I wasn't, as he just goes for the Sword Stance there, with me pivoting out into Heatran, trying to fire off Toxic, I miss. Not getting lucky here, missed a Zen Headbutt and a Toxic so far. Here I'm just going to substitute up because this thing can kind of abuse his Sandslash if he wasn't running that coverage, which is really, really annoying. I was hoping he'd be solo Earthquake and I would be able to torment shenanigans him. I'm now going to go hard into Kartana because if he wants to Stone Edge again, or just go for Rocks, I'm going to get Kartana in, and this time I go for the knockoff again, because Gyarados just got 2-hit KO'd by knockoff from this range, right? I did 40% last time, so he can't go into Gyarados this time, which means my knockoff is really, really free unless he wants to go into Charizard. I don't know why he didn't go into Charizard, to be fair, but either way, I am able to just knock off the Scyther's Eviolite. Maybe he wasn't a very defensive Charizard, or just didn't fancy bringing in his Charizard. He's going to go out into Gyarados here and intimidate me. I am choice locked in, as he knows, so I can't kill him with a knockoff at this point. And he makes a hidden power grass, predicting the Quagsire, but I can make another good mid-ground there into that Heatran, knowing that he's either going to Flamethrower or hidden power grass, predicting the Quagsire. I don't think he's ever going to Earthquake. I don't think he even has Earthquake. So I can make that really good mid-ground into Heatran. And then we've already seen, like, maybe his Heatran switching could be the Sandslash, so I'm going to double again into Kartana, hoping to catch that Sandslash coming in, and we get it. And you can see here how aggressively I'm playing Kartana. I'm just going to Leaf Blade again. He doesn't go into Charizard, so I'm able just to catch him with the Leaf Blade here. He goes out into Gyarados to intimidate me, but my banded Leaf Blade does kill him from this range, so that was a bit of a misplay from my opponent, as I can just fire off a Leaf Blade and kill the Hitmonchan. Kartana's going crazy in this game. He brings back in to intimidate me. That's not the one, as he now finally brings in the Charizard, and you can see there, 4 times resist as 46. Now, it is a critical hit, but, one, we have missed a few moves in this game, so, hacks kind of balanced out, and 2, it is a high critical hit ratio move, and that is really important because you do get a lot of crits with Leaf Blade. If you're spamming Leaf Blade, I mean, I've just been clicking Leaf Blade like 5 turns in a row. I did get 2 crits out of those, but it is a high critical hit ratio move. So you kind of, that's another kind of string to Kartana's bow, is that its moves are not stupidly high base power, but getting that crit is massive. Doing 46% to a Charizard, which 4 times resists, nuts. Imagine if I had rocks in this game, I wouldn't have to switch, I'd just be able to kill his Charizard X there. As he goes for the Aerial Ace, not sure about that coverage, actually. Not sure what he was trying to catch with that, but still. Fires off the Earthquake because I'm able to just go for a DD and guarantee to outspeed this thing. And now I'm going to take away his last Kartana answer, which just opens up the end game for Kartana so beautifully well. He goes into Gyarados to intimidate me. I can sweep with Barney if I land my Stone Edge and then crunch the Alakazam. Unfortunately, I missed, but it doesn't matter because at this point, Kartana's going to be able to just pick up another KO. He has no switch in. Leaf Blade is just going to wreck shot on that Gyarados. And this isn't even an Adamant Kartana, bear in mind. This is Jolly Kartana. He goes for the Psyshock. I think he was like Specs or Scarf or something. And so, yeah, he knew that he just like couldn't win from that point, I think. Otherwise, yeah, definitely going for like Shadow Ball or anything special would have been better. Psychic even would have been better. But again, I mean, it shows Kartana's physical defense there that we really just take that Psyshock, no problem. So, yeah, there was some weird things going on in this game, but it kind of just shows you the brute force of Kartana when it comes up against a matchup that it doesn't really have a great matchup in, and you just make these really aggressive plays. I should have brought Stealth Rocks on this team, because if I'd got Stealth Rocks up and I'd been making those aggressive doubles, this game would have gone a lot faster, and I would have been able to pressure the Charizard, the Scyther, and the Gyarados a lot quicker with Kartana. So, yeah, I think it just shows you that Kartana, you slap a Choice Band on it, you make it Adamant, and you bring Tapu Bulu as well. I mean, imagine that Adamant Choice Banded Leaf Blade crit in grassy terrain to Charizard. That would have done so much. It would have 2-hit KO'd. So it kind of just shows you that this thing is absolutely nutty. It's broken. This mon is just broken. So I don't know yet. I hope it's removed from Sword and Shield, because otherwise I'm just going to be drafting it every league, and yeah, it's busted. I hope, yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, a lot of the Ultra Beasts were a little bit broken. Like Beast Boost, a little bit of a broken ability, but there we go. And Kartana, in my opinion, little bit broken, but I love it. So that was the final replay for the #1 Pokemon here, as Kartana just went crazy and we got to see some fire plays and some aggressive doubles and stuff. It shows you that you can play this thing. You can play this thing that way. You can use it this way, especially on an offense team like I have here, with really good regenerated pivots and stuff like that. So we are going to end it here, guys. Thank you so much for the support on the last video, and I'm going to thank you in advance for any support you give to this one, because this will be coming out in the mess of YouTube that will be the Sword and Shield era YouTube. I'm sure no one will be watching this. They'll be watching Sword and Shield. But if you did watch this to this point, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. These were my top 10 mons based on statistics in Gen 7 draft leagues. If you like this style of video, let me know down below, and I might do some more analytical breakdowns of specific mons in the Gen 8 meta, depending on how I feel and how much I enjoy that meta game. But let me know if you guys would like to see it. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.